you like audiobooks or audio shows, check out a free trial of Audible. Just click the link in the description.
Welcome to MINDSHOCK. This is your host, Bruce McGuire, and we are going over the Britney Spears conspiracy. Now, this podcast has been long in the making, long requested. It's actually requested a number of years ago now at the beginning of the podcast. And the reason why is up until recently, Britney Spears' conservatorship, which is now public knowledge, it was initially being denied. All the coincidence theorists and the authority-worshipping cultists, they just did not believe that Britney Spears did not act of her own free will in all capacities, business, financial, her family, and otherwise. Obviously, it's all known now, and the coincidence theorists pretend that they never denied and they never made fun of this conspiracy, but it indeed was a widespread conspiracy, and it goes pretty deep. I mean, the Britney Spears conspiracies go into human cloning, CIA Illuminati projects, all of these things that a lot of pop stars are subjected to in terms of wacky out there conspiracy theories. But this is MINDSHOCK, and we have to objectively, neutrally, scientifically, logically examine all of the theories, and that's what's on the agenda tonight. If you enjoy the podcast, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. Help support the channel. Help us create more mind-shocking podcasts in a variety of topics. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. Make sure you allow your device to have those notifications come through, or you could just go to youtube.com/mindshock and manually peruse our ever-growing back catalog and see the latest podcasts as they are released if you are not getting updates. You could share this podcast on social media platforms, of which you could find us on Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and Patreon. Patrons to get priority for case topic, logical analysis, co-podcast, or request. You could also be a guest on the podcast, depending on your tier. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comment section. All right, so first of all, let's get this out of the way. I am indeed a Britney Spears fan. I'll be honest with you. I love her music. I do. I'm a Britney Spears fan. For my money, I don't know if it gets any better than when she sings Don't Let Me Be the Last to Know. I celebrate the woman's entire catalog. I'll let the MINDSHOCK listeners out there decipher for themselves whether that was in jest or not. But all kidding or not kidding aside, if you don't know who Britney Spears is, then you must be living under a rock on Mars. Britney Spears, obviously known as the Queen of Pop, a music icon rivaling Michael Jackson. And there might be some Michael Jackson fans who possibly might take offense with that. But yeah, Britney Spears is a music superstar, possibly unlike any other, both in terms of fame and fortune and the tabloids. Of course, her public breakdown, if that's what it was, again, we'll be going down a couple different lines of thought and theory regarding that breakdown, the head shaving, the attacking the SUV. All of these things will be going down rabbit holes in the music videos and the current situation with the Free Britney movement, which started as a conspiracy theory. Of course, I will not miss the opportunity to point out the authority-worshipping cultists who are simply indoctrinated coincidence theorists who deny basically anything out of the ordinary or anything that's uncomfortable for them to believe, whether it's something as supposedly simple as a conservatorship for a pop star. This isn't some alien conspiracy, but if it's something that they don't want to believe, they assume that coincidence theorist position, leaning on faith and fallacies to justify it. So there are, of course, many conspiracy theories involving famous people. I mean, we can go to Elvis for this. It's nothing new. But before we dive into all of them, I'm gonna do a brief overview from mirror.co.uk of just all of the craziest conspiracy theories before we go into the deep dive. So this was actually written by Molly Pike, published April 27th, 2019. Britney Spears' craziest conspiracy theories claim she's a clone and a political puppet. There have been several conspiracy theories about Britney Spears, 37, which is how old she was in 2019, during her 2-decade-long career. She had an incredible career, from being America's sweetheart as a teen to suffering a public breakdown and then making a comeback and winning back legions of fans. So it's perhaps unsurprising that conspiracy theorists have tried to determine how Britney Spears, 37, has enjoyed such enduring success. The mom of two is going through a difficult time and recently entered rehab due to her father's poor health, but that hasn't stopped them from making bizarre claims about Britney's past. From being a clone to being a puppet of the Bush presidency. Here's all of the maddest conspiracy theories about Britney. Britney is a clone. The theory claims that Britney and her then boyfriend Justin Timberlake were in a car accident shortly before the release of Spears' album Baby One More Time in 1999. Cruel theorists claim Britney was decapitated and instantly killed in the wreck. Her record label was forced to clone her so they'd continue making money off her music, it's claimed. They made several clones throughout her career, which theorists claim is proved by Britney's changing looks. Britney's ups and downs throughout her time in the spotlight were allegedly caused by all the different women pretending to be the real thing. According to the theory, Justin was left with severe burns in the accident, but is still alive and in a coma. Yes, the man responsible for bringing Sexy back is apparently a clone too. Of course, this theory can be debunked by the sheer fact that human cloning doesn't exist, and it seems to be the invention of 2 US DJs who were fired for starting the rumor that Brit had died. Okay, now before we get to that, this is something I wanted to really point out in terms of these celebrity clone conspiracy theorists. And by the way, if you believe this is an abuse of MINDSHOCK, using logic and reason to decipher pop culture conspiracies, feel free to voice your concerns in the comment section as well. But I am a man of the people, and the people have spoken. And the people have spoken many times, as this was one of the most requested podcasts going back a number of years now, to the beginning of MINDSHOCK. And again, I am a man of the people, so this podcast will be done, and it will be comprehensive and exhaustive in nature. So here's the thing. If they're cloning sheep in the 90s, and that's now civilian knowledge in the 90s, it's basically turned into civilian tech in the 90s. If military tech is up to 50 years ahead of US tech, I mean, again, the conversation would maybe be different 5 years ago, 10 years ago, but we're in 2021 now. And after the year we've had in 2020 with all of these crazy conspiracy theorists being proven completely correct, I mean, there were conspiracy theorists predicting these pandemic situations, regardless of whether you think whether you think the virus is real or not, but just in terms of the response, the power grabs, the vaccine agenda, all of these things. I mean, Alex Jones and some of these other crazy conspiracy theorists, all proven correct with much better track records than the coincidence theorists. So as in terms of human cloning, without appealing to incredulity or any of these other logical fallacies, is it really out of the realm of possibility that human cloning technology exists? Now, I'm not saying it does or it doesn't. I'm just saying I wouldn't find it that surprising if they were going public with cloned sheep in the 90s. Can we imagine what they were cloning that they were not going public with in the 90s? In the 80s? In the 70s? And what are they doing now? Is it really that outlandish? So now here's where the black and white fallacies come in. Just because human cloning technology might exist doesn't mean they're cloning Britney Spears. Again, if this is some advanced military tech, are they really going to use it on a pop star? Now, If they were going to use it on someone, I guess they would use it on Britney Spears if music moguls could get their hands on the technology. Now, I'm not saying they could or they couldn't, but if they could, then Britney Spears would be a good candidate, regardless of whether she was killed or not. Obviously, the theory is with the cloning that she's still alive and she has clones. Not that she was killed. I don't actually remember that rumor that she was actually killed and cloned. Obviously, the rumors are that she was cloned, just like all these other celebrities. I mean, there's a lot of theories about Eminem being cloned. That doesn't mean he was killed. That doesn't mean he's dead, although we don't know if he is or he isn't, if that conspiracy is true. Again, this is MINDSHOCK, where the only thing we know for sure is that we don't know anything for sure. Continuing on here with the article, Britney was a puppet for the Bush administration. Britney said she completely trusted the president. Another conspiracy theory claims that Britney was used as a puppet by George Bush during his U.S. presidency. It's claimed that she helped drum up support for the invasion of Iraq due to her huge popularity. When asked about the war, Britney told an interviewer at the time, "Honestly, I think we should trust our president in every decision that he makes, and we should just support that and be faithful to what happens." When asked if she trusted Bush, she responded, "Yes, I do." Now, what's weird about that is, especially, or possibly not weird about that, is before the internet was as big as it is today, or even in, let's say, the post 2000, to post 2010. So before 2010 or so, I mean, when did the internet really explode? I mean, people had internet before 2010, 2011, but it wasn't everybody. It was a much smaller percentage of the population. It's not like today. I believe like maybe 2016, 2017, at that point, the internet was absolutely everywhere. In 2000, 2004, 2008 even, it was not absolutely everywhere at every time with the plethora of information and topics being discussed that are discussed now. Now it's literally everyone and everything. Up to 2010 even or so, that was not the situation. Particularly just even the culture going from the 90s to the early 2000s, even though the internet existed, it was not mainstream per se. People still mostly watched the Idiot Box to get their information. The radio was, of course, much bigger than it is today, even though radio is not completely dead today. But it was still a lot bigger back then. And we'll be getting into that as well. I will address one other issue here, which is Operation Mockingbird. So, so this is basically the infiltration of the media by the CIA per se for the purpose of propaganda. Now, there's a whole bunch of variants to Operation Mockingbird. I'll probably be doing a dedicated podcast on this with JR, but here's what Wikipedia says about it, and then we'll get into a little bit more here just to set the stage for Britney Spears' pop music and all of the Illuminati symbolism allegedly present in pop music, music videos, and all of these things, and that has been for quite some time. It's actually quite interesting watching videos even from the 90s with all of the pyramids, all-seeing eye, hand gestures, all of these interesting things that have gone back quite some time. And when you compare it, obviously the coincidence theorists write it all off as a coincidence, but when you compare it to, for example, indie music videos made by indie artists not signed to major record labels, not having their music videos directed by these Hollyweird people injecting all the symbolism, there's none of that. So if it was all coincidental, you would expect to see all this same symbolism in indie music videos, and on the indie scene, obviously you don't see that. So anyway, Operation Mockingbird, on Wikipedia, it says it's an alleged large-scale program of the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, but this was already admitted and declassified, so it's very telling that Wikipedia still throws the word alleged in there when this is all, at this point, it's all public knowledge and admitted. But anyway, began in the early years of the Cold War and attempted to manipulate news media for propaganda purposes. So they also state they attempted to, not that they actually did. Obviously they did. According to author Deborah Davis, Operation Mockingbird recruited leading American journalists into a propaganda network and influenced the operations of front groups. CIA support of front groups was exposed when a 1967 Ramparts magazine article reported that the National Student Association received funding from the CIA. In 1975, Church Committee congressional investigations revealed agency connections with journalists and civic groups. None of these reports, however, mentions by name an Operation Mockingbird coordinating or supporting these activities. Background: in the early years of the Cold War, efforts were made by the United States government to use mass media to influence public opinion internationally. After the United States Senate Watergate Committee in '73 uncovered domestic surveillance abuses directed by the executive branch of the U.S. government, and the New York Times in 1974 published an article by Seymour Hersh claiming the CIA had violated its charter by spying on anti-war activists. Former CIA officials and some lawmakers called for a congressional inquiry that became known as the Church Committee. Published in '76, the committee's report confirmed some earlier stories that charged that the CIA had cultivated relationships with private institutions, including the press. Without identifying individuals by name, the Church Committee stated that it found 50 journalists who had official but secret relationships with the CIA. In '77, Rolling Stone magazine article stated the CIA and the media reporter Carl Bernstein expanded upon the Church Committee's report and said that around 400 press members were considered assets by the CIA. In The Rising Clamor, The American Press, the CIA, and the Cold War, David P. Hadley wrote that the continued lack of specific details provided by the Church Committee and Bernstein's expose proved a breeding ground for some outlandish claims regarding CIA and the press. As an example, he offered unsourced claims by reporter Deborah Davis. Davis asserted in her '79 biography of Katharine Graham, owner of the Washington Post, Catherine the Great, that the CIA ran an Operation Mockingbird during this time. Davis wrote that the Prague-based International Organization of Journalists, the IOJ, received money from Moscow and controlled reporters on every major newspaper in Europe, disseminating stories that promoted the communist cause. And that Frank Wisner, director of the Office of Policy Coordination, a covert operations unit created in 1948 by the U.S. National Security Council, had created Operation Mockingbird in response to the IOJ recruiting Phil Graham from the Washington Post to run the project within the industry. According to Davis, by the early 1950s, Wisner owned respected members of the New York Times, Newsweek, CBS, and other communications vehicles. Davis wrote that after Cord Meyer joined the CIA in 1951, he became Operation Mockingbird's principal operative. Neither the Church Committee or any of the investigations that followed it find there was such an operation as described by Davis. And if there was, would they find it? And if they did find it, would they make that public? Hadley summarized, Mockingbird, as described by Davis, has remained a stubbornly persistent theory, and added the Davis Mockingbird theory that the CIA operated a deliberate and systematic program of widespread manipulation of the U.S. media does not appear to be grounded in reality, but that should not disguise the active role the CIA played in influencing the domestic press's output. Now, what kind of statement is that? I mean, you're basically talking to both sides of your mouth there. So, would it really be that surprising that the CIA would control the media and Hollywood? It really wouldn't be that shocking. I mean, I'm not sure how far the coincidence theorists are willing to dig in and deny any and all possibilities of this going on, but there is just so much evidence. And what I will address next is this quote that the coincidence theorists pretend was debunked, again in standard faith-based scientism, authority worship, cult behavior, which is all they have since they don't have actual facts. We'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false. This was attributed to William Casey, CIA director. And there was an old meme that had the CIA floor logo with this quote, and it says, "Read it again, let it sink in good and hard." So Of course, all of the coincidence theorists got instantly triggered because how would the corrupt profiteers have allowed that? That couldn't have been said. So it has to be just crazy QAnon type people that are propagating that. Well, here's the thing. There were people present when he said that. This is one such person. I am the source for this quote, which was indeed said by CIA Director William Casey at an early February 1981 meeting of the newly elected President Reagan with his new cabinet secretaries to report to him what they had learned about their agencies in the first couple weeks of the administration. The meeting was in the Roosevelt Room in the West Wing of the White House, not far from the Cabinet Room. I was present at the meeting as assistant to the Chief Domestic Policy Advisor to the President. And this is Barbara Honegger with her personal account online who has verified this information. So she was an assistant to the Chief Domestic Policy Advisor to the President. Casey first told Reagan that he had been astonished to discover that over 80% of the intelligence that the analysis side of the CIA produced was based on open public sources like newspapers and magazines. As he did to all the other secretaries of their departments and agencies, Reagan asked what he saw as the goal of the CIA, to which he replied with this quote, which I recorded in my notes of the meeting as he said it. Shortly thereafter, I told senior White House correspondent Sarah McClendon, who was a close friend and colleague, who in turn made it public. And there were several legislative aides to senators who also backed her story and vouched for her honesty. So that just goes to show on how coincidence theorists just pretend it's all fake without knowing. And again, I'm not saying you should have believed that meme when you saw it. I'm saying if you weren't in that meeting, you don't know if it's true or not. So pretending it's just silly nonsense, I mean, that's a staple of coincidence theorists, obviously, because they're kind of allergic to logic and reason. But that's just a very, very interesting quote. I'll read it one more time before we get back to Britney Spears. We'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false, said by William Casey on the mission of what are the goals of the CIA, corroborated by people present at that meeting with Reagan and other individuals as well. Okay, so I'm going to lay the stage a little bit more with mainstream sources now, because if you're a coincidence theorist and that triggered you really, really hard, I'll do a little bit more mainstream sources. We'll go theatlantic.com, How the CIA Hoodwinked Hollywood by Nicholas Show, July 14th, 2016. Since its inception, the agency has wooed filmmakers, producers, and actors in order to present a rosy portrait of its operations to the American public. The CIA has a long history of spooking the news, dating back to its early days when the legendary spy master Allen Dulles and his top staff drank and dined regularly with the press elite of New York and Washington, and the agency boasted hundreds of U.S. and foreign journalists as paid and unpaid assets. In 1977, after the systematic media manipulation was publicly exposed by congressional investigations, the CIA created an Office of Public Affairs that was tasked with guiding press coverage of intelligence matters in a more transparent fashion. And of course, there'd be no need for this office if these Operation Mockingbird claims were false. So the agency insists that it no longer maintains a stable of friendly American journalists. Yeah, I mean, obviously everybody should trust them. I mean, look at their track record. And that its effort to influence the press are much more above board. But in truth, the intelligence empire's efforts to manufacture the truth and mold public opinion are more vast and varied than ever before. One of its foremost assets, Hollywood. The agency has established a very active spin machine in the heart of the entertainment capital, which works strenuously to make sure the cloak and dagger world is presented in heroic terms. Since the mid 90s, but especially after 9/11, American screenwriters, directors, and producers have traded positive portrayal of the spy profession in film or television projects for special access and favors at CIA headquarters. Ever since its inception in 1947, the CIA has been covertly working with Hollywood. I'll say that one again. Ever since its inception in 1947, the CIA has been covertly working with Hollywood. But it wasn't until the mid 90s that the agency formally hired an entertainment industry liaison and began openly courting favorable treatment in films and television. During the Clinton presidency, the CIA took its Hollywood strategy to a new level, trying to take more control of its own myth-making. In 96, the CIA hired one of its veteran clandestine officers, Chase Brandon, to work directly with Hollywood studios and production companies to upgrade its image. We've always been portrayed erroneously as evil and Machiavellian. Erroneously? Is that what you would expect a CIA asset to say if it was true? Brandon later told The Guardian, "It took us a long time to support projects that portray us in the light we want to be seen." And that's a very, very interesting way to say that. Not the truth, but the light in which we want to be seen. The flag-waving Tom Clancy franchise began a centerpiece of CIA propaganda in the 90s with a succession of actors. Alec Baldwin, Harrison Ford, and finally Ben Affleck starring in films like Patriot Games, Clear and Present Danger, and The Sum of All Fears, which pit the daring agent Jack Ryan against an array of enemies, from terrorists to South American drug lords to nuclear-armed white supremacists. The long relationship between Affleck, a prominent Hollywood liberal, and Langley seems particularly perplexing. But the mutual admiration has paid off handsomely for all concerned. According to The Guardian, during the production of The Sum of All Fears, the 2002 Clancy thriller starring Affleck, the agency was happy to bring its makers to Langley for a personal tour of headquarters and to offer the star access to agency analysts. When filming began, CIA liaison Brandon was on set to advise. Brandon, the CIA's man in Hollywood, was also a frequent presence on the set of Alias, the TV espionage series starring Affleck's then-wife, Jennifer Garner. The series, which debuted in September 2001, reflected the pervasive paranoia of the post-9/11 era, that climate of permanent anxiety so beloved by national security agencies. Created by the Hollywood powerhouse J.J. Abrams, who would go on to reboot the Star Trek and Star Wars franchises, the show featured Garner as Sidney Bristow, a CIA undercover agent who infiltrated a global conspiracy. In March 2004, the CIA announced that Garner, reflecting the growing merger between Langley and Hollywood, had filmed a recruitment video for the agency. The video emphasizes the CIA's mission and its need for people with diverse backgrounds and foreign language skills. The agency's press release stated, "Miss Garner was excited to participate in the video after being asked by the Office of Public Affairs. The CIA's film industry liaison worked with the writers of Alias during the first season to educate them on fundamental tradecraft. Although the show Alias is fictional, the character Jennifer Garner embodies the integrity, patriotism, and intelligence the CIA looks for in its officers." As Hollywood became increasingly embedded with Langley following 9/11, CIA employees often saw their public affairs colleagues giving various celebrities personalized tours of the headquarters. "I can't tell you how many times this happened," recalled the former CIA officer John Kiriakou. "He would regularly bump into a parade of Hollywood types, including Harrison Ford and Ben Affleck. He often wondered why these actors were allowed to walk around a top-secret facility. Because he's going to be playing a CIA guy in a movie, that's the criteria now? You just have to be a friend of the agency and you can come in and walk around? In the meantime, people who are undercover are having to walk through the halls with their hands over their faces because these people aren't cleared. It's insane." Langley's investment in Ben Affleck and vice versa paid handsome dividends with the hugely popular, if factually challenged, 2012 film Argo, directed by Affleck, who also starred as the CIA makeup artist Tony Mendez. Based on a 2007 Wired article by Joshua Behrman, Argo told the sort of true story of how the CIA rescued several American hostages in Tehran with the help of Mendez, who set up a fake Hollywood production company and was pretending to shoot a science fiction fantasy film in Iran. According to Richard Klein, a consultant who helps connect Hollywood studios with the CIA and other government agencies, Argo was the first movie to get permission to film inside Langley headquarters in 15 years. And this is actually a really long article. I'm going to stop it here, but it goes on to highlight other films, and it's kind of viewing it from one side as opposed to the other side, where the CIA threatened or coerced certain productions not to make certain movies or change scripts and etc. I won't be getting into that for this one, but it's also interesting on how Ben Affleck's buddy, Matt Damon, had his famous spiel in the movie Good Will Hunting about working for the NSA and what he thought of government agencies in general. But here's what I'm going to address in terms of the other way around with CIA nefarious influences in Hollywood. This was actually posted on spyculture.com. The CIA in Hollywood, no author listed. Tricia Jenkins' The CIA in Hollywood was one of the books that inspired me to start this site, and the recently published second edition expands considerably on the original. Because the CIA is resistant to FOIA requests and other forms of inquiry, Jenkins amassed a wide range of open source materials and interviewed various people from both the CIA, or formerly of the CIA, and from the entertainment industry. The result is an extremely accessible book on how the CIA operates in the film and TV industries, and a very well-researched academic textbook. For researchers, spy enthusiasts, and fans of the curious, The CIA in Hollywood is not only an important tome, but also an intriguing and at times disturbing read. A Brief History of the CIA in Hollywood. Jenkins' work primarily focuses on the recent and modern-day relationship, presumably due to the profound lack of books on the topic. However, a brief history is necessary to understand her discoveries and analysis. The CIA began getting involved in the entertainment industry from its inception, but usually on an ad hoc basis without any obvious overall strategy. Early forays included Animal Farm, produced by a British animation house to ensure maximum deniability, and The Quiet American, which was produced with some degree of official cooperation from the CIA. And Animal Farm is indeed very, very dark. We won't get into that, but that is bizarre with its occult symbolism and all of that, and things of that nature. However, until The Bay of Pigs, the CIA largely eschewed approaches from the industry, denying requests for involvement in various productions, writing themselves out of films, and even using CBS to prevent a TV show being made by a rival company. Another curious incident occurred at a meeting at the Pentagon in 1953, where William Godell, the deputy assistant to the Secretary of Defense Special Operations, mentioned that CIA officer Tracy Barnes has MGM people making a movie out on the West Coast. CIA Deputy Director for Plans Frank Wisner wrote a memo to Godell denying this and saying that Barnes was simply sharing footage with the producers that might be included in the final movie, and that the CIA were categorically not having MGM make a film. This illustrates the paranoia of the early CIA regarding even internal rumors of their involvement in Hollywood. It was not until after the failed Bay of Pigs invasion that the CIA became a topic of public conversation and widespread reporting and criticism, and at this point they began opening up somewhat. It would be another decade before a movie crew would be allowed to film at CIA headquarters in Langley for Scorpio, and another 30 years before the agency established their entertainment liaison office. During this period, numerous films featuring the CIA were released, mostly depicting the agency as either morally corrupt, engaging in assassinations, blackmail, and other extremely illegal activities. Would that be accurate or not? Or just incompetent, failing to recognize the importance of information, making ludicrous errors in judgment, and so on. Would that also be accurate? While in the 70s and 80s, the CIA were busy with other things such as Watergate, lying to the Church Committee, and Afghanistan-Iran-Contra, when the Soviet Union fell, they found themselves without enough to do. Senator Patrick Moynihan introduced two bills calling for the abolition of the CIA in 91 and 95. And there was, for the first time in its history, a serious discussion about whether the CIA was necessary. In part as a response to this, but also as a response to the classic Hollywood depiction of the agency, the CIA established their Entertainment Liaison Office in 1996. It goes on to talk about Chase Brandon and all these other things that we talked about. So there's clearly a relationship between the CIA and Hollywood, the entertainment industry. And I'm gonna go over one more article. This is from SputnikNews.com, Sputnik International, for a little bit more of an objective viewpoint. Documents expose how U.S. government uses Hollywood to promote and propagandize. A vast swath of documents revealing the extent of U.S. government influence in Hollywood, including editing scripts and blocking critical movies from ever being made, have been unearthed, indicating U.S. officials have been covertly helping produce at least 800 major movies and 1,000 TV shows since 1910. The files were uncovered by Tom Secker, an independent researcher, and Dr. Matthew Alford, a teaching fellow at the University of Bath, after diligent trawling of over 4,000 U.S. military and intelligence documents obtained under the Freedom of Information Act. They form the basis of the duo's book, National Security Cinema. Among the trove are official diary reports from assorted military entertainment liaison offices, documents from the Department of Defense and Central Intelligence Agency on changes made to film scripts, production assistant agreements signed between military officials and film producers, and internal government communications about the entertainment industry. So the Pentagon was actually involved in the U.S. film industry going back to the 1910s. So, and then of course the OSS, the precursor to the CIA. All of this information was also covered on independent.co.uk. So these are mainstream sources that all pretty much prove the interest of the CIA and the U.S. government in Hollywood and the entertainment industry. So now that we've laid that groundwork, so hopefully some of the coincidence theorists listening can stop whining about unproven allegations and things of that nature. They can check these references for that. So would it be out of the realm of possibility that Britney Spears or some of these other major stars were either paid off or heavily suggested to back U.S. presidents or certain political ideologies? I guess not. So that was a long circle around from Britney Spears and George Bush, but also the sentiment at the time. Again, this is pre-widespread use of the internet. More people trusted the government and the president than they do these days. So that could have also been innocent, of course. Okay, Britney is being imprisoned by her dad. Fans have launched the campaign Free Britney after rumors were started that she was forced into rehab against her will. It was reported that Britney had checked into a health facility after her 66-year-old father, Jamie, underwent corrective surgery on his intestines and colon following a life-threatening rupture. Britney's father continues to act as her conservator after a court decided in 2008 that the pop star lacked the ability to make decisions for herself. She was forced to deny that she'd been imprisoned against her will, saying, "My situation is unique, but I promise I'm doing what's best at this moment. You may not know this about me, but I am strong and stand up for what I want. Your love and dedication is amazing, but what I need right now is a little bit of privacy to deal with all the hard things that life is throwing my way." Now, does that sound like a prepared statement or what? Keep in mind, at the time, this conservatorship was considered a conspiracy theory. I can't reiterate that because, again, just a couple years ago, when it was first suggested, when it was first requested on MINDSHOCK, the sentiment was that you'd be kind of crazy for believing that there's some kind of conservatorship for Britney. Of course, she either agreed to it or this was something that was not conspiratorial in any fashion. So those are the generic theories we'll be approaching. So obviously we have to go into Britney Spears' background. And of course we have music producers and managers that are all intertwined in the entertainment elite of Hollywood with of course their own government connections. I'll be doing the quick rundown on Wikipedia. Britney Jean Spears, born December 2nd, 1981, is an American singer, songwriter, dancer, actress. She is credited with influencing the revival of teen pop during the late 90s and early 2000s, for which she is referred to as the Princess of Pop. After appearing in stage productions and television series, Spears signed with Jive Records in 97 at age 15. Her first two studio albums, certified diamond in the US, Baby One More Time and Oops, I Did It Again, 99 and 2000 respectively, were global successes and became two of the best-selling albums of all time, along with making her the best-selling teenage artist of all time. The former's title track was named the greatest debut single of all time by Rolling Stone in 2020. And the latter held a 15-year record for fastest-selling album by a female artist in the U.S. within the first week of sales, with over 1.3 million copies. Now, with these kinds of numbers and this kind of cash flow, again, if you had the capability to clone somebody, and there's, let's not fall for black and white fallacies. Some people believe this MK Ultra infiltration of Hollywood was also done. So MK Ultra, the mind control program of the CIA, alleged to have ceased. However, of course, they denied it in the first place. So the coincidence theorists, who, again, at the time that the MK Ultra theories, before this was all public and exposed, the coincidence theorists were, of course, doing their silly little goofball rants. Oh, there's no way the government would do mind control experiments on the citizens. So it's really, really funny to see how the coincidence theorists have to do all this mental gymnastics and then pretend they never denied it once it goes public, and then they just repeat the process with the new conspiracy theories where they pretend that they can obviously not be valid under any circumstance. But would it behoove government interests to have control of highly influential individuals in the music and movie industries? I mean, that's a no-brainer. Do I even have to answer that question? Spears adopted more mature and provocative themes and aesthetics for her next two studio albums, Britney 2001 and In the Zone 2003, and made her feature film debut in a starring role in Crossroads 2002. And how people didn't win some Academy Awards for that film, I still do not know. She became the executive producer of her fifth studio album, Blackout 2007, which is often critically referred to as her best work. And I'll be getting into a few mind shocks on what happened between In the Zone and Blackout. And that is, of course, the subject of many a conspiracy, but one step at a time. Due to a series of highly publicized personal struggles, promotion for the album was limited, and she was later involuntarily placed in a conservatorship. Since then, she released the chart-topping albums Circus 2008 and Femme Fatale 2011, the latter of which became her most successful era of singles in the U.S. charts. She embarked on a 4-year concert residency, Britney Piece of Me, at Planet Hollywood Resort and Casino in Las Vegas to promote her next two albums, Britney Jean 2013 and Glory 2016. Since 2019, Spears has been involved in a legal dispute over her conservatorship. So, and yeah, it's around 2019 when the coincidence theorists had to kind of pretend they never denied any issues with this conservatorship, because now, of course, it is public knowledge and the so-called Free Britney movement is picking up steam. It's actually trending right now on Twitter. We're now February 2021. Spears has scored 6 #1 albums on the Billboard 200. She has also 4 solo #1 singles on the U.S. Billboard Hot 100, Baby One More Time, Womanizer 3, and Hold It Against Me. As a featured artist, the S&M remix also topped the Billboard chart. Other singles, Oops, I Did It Again, Toxic, and Scream and Shout, topped the charts in most countries. With 3 in 2009 and Hold It Against Me in 2011, she became the second artist after Mariah Carey in the Hot 100's history to debut at #1 with 2 or more songs. Spears' heavily choreographed videography is considered a focal point to the success of her career, for which she has been awarded the Michael Jackson Video Vanguard Award. She has earned numerous awards and accolades, including a Grammy Award, 13 Guinness World Records, 6 MTV Video Music Awards, 7 Billboard Music Awards, including the Millennium Award, the inaugural Radio Disney Icon Award, and a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Regarded as a pop icon, Spears has sold over 100 million records worldwide, including over 70 million solely in the US, making her one of the world's best-selling music artists. She was ranked by Billboard as the 8th biggest artist of the 2000s decade. In the United States, she is the 4th best-selling female artist of the Nielsen SoundScan era, as well as the best-selling female album artist of the 2000s. In 2004, Spears launched a perfume brand with Elizabeth Arden Inc. Sales exceeded $1.5 billion as of 2012. Forbes has reported Spears as the highest-paid female musician of 2002 and 2012. She has the list of most searched celebrities 7 times in 12 years, a record since the inception of the internet. We're seeing the word inception a lot in all of these articles on this podcast. Life and early career, 1981 to 1997. Early life and career beginnings. Britney Jean Spears was born on December 2nd, 1981 in Macomb, Mississippi, the second child of Lynn Irene Bridges and James Parnell Spears. Her maternal grandmother, Lillian Portell, was English, born in London, and one of Spears' maternal great-great-grandfathers was Maltese. Her siblings are Brian James and Jamie Lynn Spears, born in the Bible Belt, where socially conservative evangelical Protestantism is a particularly strong religious influence. She was baptized as a Southern Baptist and sang in a church choir as a child. As an adult, she has studied Kabbalist teachings. And of course, so has Madonna and the occult, of course, a lot more of a talked about connection. We'll not be going into that for this podcast. We have enough to go over here. At age 3, she started attending dance lessons in her hometown of Kentwood, Louisiana, and was selected to perform as a solo artist at the annual recital. Spears made her local stage debut at age 5, singing "What Child Is This?" at her kindergarten graduation. During her childhood, she also had gymnastics and voice lessons and won many state-level competitions and children's talent shows. She said about her ambition as a child, "I was in my own world. I found out what I'm supposed to do at an early age." At age 8, Spears and her mother, Lynn, traveled to Atlanta, Georgia to audition for the 90s revival of the Mickey Mouse Club. Casting director Matt Casella rejected her as too young, but introduced her to Nancy Carson, a New York talent agent. Carson was impressed with Spears' singing and suggested enrolling her at the Professional Performing Arts School shortly after Lynn and her daughters moved to a sublet apartment in New York. Spears was hired for her first professional role as the understudy for the lead role of Tina Denmark in the off-Broadway musical Ruthless. She also appeared as a contestant on the popular television show Star Search and was cast in a number of commercials. In December 92, she was cast in the Mickey Mouse Club alongside Christina Aguilera, Justin Timberlake, Ryan Gosling, and Kerry Russell. After the show was canceled in 1996, she returned to Mississippi and enrolled at Macomb's Park Lane Academy. Although she made friends with most of her classmates, she compared the school to the opening scene in Clueless with all the cliques. "I was so bored. I was the point guard on the basketball team. I had my boyfriend and I went to homecoming and Christmas formal, but I wanted more." In June 97, Spears was in talks with manager Lou Pearlman to join the female pop group Innocence, with an S. Lynn asked family friend and entertainment lawyer Larry Rudolph for his opinion and submitted a tape of Spears singing over a Whitney Houston karaoke song along with some pictures. Rudolph decided that he wanted to pitch her to the record labels, for which she needed a professional demo made. He sent Spears an unused song of Toni Braxton. She rehearsed for a week and recorded her vocals in a studio with a sound engineer. Spears traveled to New York with the demo and met with executives from 4 labels, returning to Kentwood the same day. 3 of the labels rejected her, saying that the audiences wanted pop bands such as the Backstreet Boys and the Spice Girls, and there wasn't gonna be another Madonna, another Debbie Gibson, or another Tiffany. Tiffany, that's an 80s throwback. 2 weeks later, executives from Jive Records returned calls to Rudolph. Senior Vice President of A&R Jeff Fenster said about Spears' audition that it's very rare to hear someone that age who can deliver emotional content and commercial appeal. For any artist, the motivation, the eye of the tiger is extremely important, and Britney had that. Spears sang Houston's I Have Nothing for the executives and was subsequently signed to the label. They appointed her to work with producer Eric Foster White for a month, who reportedly shaped her voice from lower and less poppy delivery to distinctively unmistakable Britney. After hearing the recorded material, President Clive Calder ordered a full album. Spears had originally envisioned Sheryl Crow music, but younger, more adult contemporary. She felt secure with her label's appointment of producers since it made more sense to go pop because I can dance to it, it's more me. She flew to Cheiron Studios in Stockholm, Sweden, where half of the album was recorded from March to April 1998, with producers Max Martin, Deniz Pop, and Rami Yacoub, among others. And there's actually been some dispute over what they did with her voice, because if you listen to her singing as a kid, she has a very, very deep and powerful voice, and so it would be very difficult for her to completely change it into this baby voice, which of course she's known for. And there's a little bit of a dispute who started doing that, when, how, and we'll be going into that a little bit later. 1998 through 2000, Baby One More Time, and Oops, I Did It Again. After Spears returned to the United States, she embarked on a shopping mall promotional tour to promote her upcoming debut album. Her show was a 4-song set, and she was accompanied by 2 backup dancers. Her first concert tour followed, an opening act for NSYNC. Her debut studio album, Baby One More Time, was released on January 12, 1999. It debuted at number 1 on the U.S. Billboard 200 and was certified 2 times platinum by the Recording Industry Association of America after a month. Worldwide, the album topped the charts in 15 countries and sold over 10 million copies in a year. It became the highest-selling album ever by a teenage artist. The title track was released as the lead single from the album. Originally, Jive Records wanted its music video to be animated. However, Spears rejected it and suggested the final concept of a Catholic schoolgirl. The single sold 500,000 copies on its first day and peaked at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, topping the chart for 2 consecutive weeks. It has sold more than 10 million copies, making it one of the best-selling singles of all time. Baby One More Time later received a Grammy nomination for Best Female Pop Vocal Performance. The title track also topped the singles chart for 2 weeks in the UK and became the fastest-selling single ever by a female artist, shipping over 460,000 copies. It would later become the 25th most successful song of all time in British chart history. Spears is the youngest female artist to have a million seller in the UK. The album's 3rd single, You Drive Me Crazy, became a top 10 hit worldwide and further propelled the success of the Baby One More Time album. The album has sold 25 million copies worldwide, making it one of the best-selling albums of all time. It is the best-selling debut album by any artist. On June 28th, 1999, Spears began her first headlining Baby One More Time tour in North America, which was positively received by critics. It also generated some controversy due to her racy outfits. An extension of the tour titled Crazy 2K followed in March 2000. Spears premiered songs from her upcoming 2nd album during the show. Oops, I Did It Again, her 2nd studio album, was released in May 2000. It debuted at number 1 in the U.S., selling 1.3 million copies, breaking the Nielsen SoundScan record for the highest debut sales by any solo artist. The album has sold over 20 million copies worldwide to date, making it one of the best-selling albums of all time. Rob Sheffield of Rolling Stone said that the great thing about Oops, under the cheese surface, Britney's demand for satisfaction is complex, fierce, and downright scary, making her a true child of rock and roll tradition. The album's lead single, Oops, I Did It Again, peaked at the top of the charts in Australia, New Zealand, the UK, and many other European nations. The album, as well as the title track, received Grammy nominations for Best Pop Vocal Album and Best Female Pop Vocal Performance, respectively. The same year, Spears embarked on the Oops, I Did It Again tour, which grossed $40.5 million. She also released her first book, Britney Spears' Heart to Heart, co-written with her mother. On September 7th, 2000, Spears performed at the 2000 MTV Music Awards. Halfway through the performance, she ripped off her black suit to reveal a flesh-colored bodysuit, followed by heavy dance routine. It is noted by critics as the moment that Spears showed signs of becoming a more provocative performer. Amidst media speculation, Spears confirmed she was dating NSYNC member Justin Timberlake. Spears and Timberlake would both graduate from high school via distance learning from the University of Nebraska High School. That's kind of weird. Wonder what the connection to Nebraska was. She also bought a home in Destin, Florida. 2001, 2002, Britney and Crossroads. In January 2001, Spears performed as a special guest in the Super Bowl 35 halftime show, headlined by Aerosmith and NSYNC. In February 2001, Spears signed a $7 to $8 million promotional deal with Pepsi and released another book, co-written with her mother, titled A Mother's Gift. Her self-titled third studio album, Britney, was released in November 2001. While on tour, she felt inspired by hip-hop artists such as Jay-Z and the Neptunes and wanted to create a record with a funkier sound. The album debuted at number 1 in the Billboard 200 and reached top 5 positions in Australia, the UK, and mainland Europe, and has sold 9 million copies worldwide. Stephen Thomas Erlewine of AllMusic called Britney the record where she strives to deepen her persona, making it more adult while still recognizably Britney. It sounds like the work of a star who has now found and refined her voice, resulting in her best record yet. The album was honored with 2 Grammy nominations, Best Pop Vocal Album and Best Female Pop Vocal Performance for Overprotected, and was listed in 2008 as one of Entertainment Weekly's 100 best albums from the past 25 years. The album's first single, I'm a Slave for You, became a top 10 hit worldwide. Spears' performance of the single at the 2001 MTV Video Music Awards featured a caged tiger wrangled by Bhagavan Antle and a large albino python draped over her shoulders. It was harshly received by animal rights organization PETA, P-E-T-A, who claimed the animals were mistreated and scrapped plans for the anti-fur billboard that was to feature Spears. Jocelyn Venna of MTV summarized Spears' performance at the ceremony, saying, "Draping herself in a white python and slithering around a steamy garden setting, surrounded by dancers in zebra and tiger outfits, Spears created one of the most striking visuals in the 27-year history of the show." To support the album, Spears embarked on the Dream Within a Dream tour. The show was critically praised for its technical innovation, the piece de resistance being a water screen that pumped 2 tons of water into the stage. The tour grossed $43.7 million, becoming the second highest grossing tour of 2002 by a female artist, behind Cher's Farewell Tour. Her career success was highlighted by Forbes in 2002 as Spears was ranked the world's most powerful celebrity. Interesting. Spears also landed her first starring role in Crossroads, released in February 2000. Although the film was largely panned, critics praised Spears' acting, and the film was a box office success. Crossroads, which had a $12 million budget, went on to gross over $61.1 million worldwide. In June 2002, Spears opened her first restaurant, Nyla, in New York City, but terminated her relationship in November, citing mismanagement and management's failure to keep her fully apprised. In July 2002, Spears announced she would take a 6-month break from her career. However, she went back into the studio in November to record her new album. Spears' relationship with Justin Timberlake ended after 3 years. In December 2002, Timberlake released the song Cry Me a River as the second single from the solo debut album. The music video featured a Spears lookalike and fueled the rumors that she had been unfaithful to him. As a response, Spears wrote the ballad Every Time, with her backing vocalist and friend Annette Artani. The same year, Limp Bizkit frontman Fred Durst said that he was in a relationship with Spears. However, Spears denied Durst's claims. In a 2009 interview, he explained that, "I guess at the time it was taboo for a guy like me to be associated with a gal like her." So this isn't a gossip podcast, so I'm not going to really get into the exact breakup details. I'm sure all the Britney Spears fans already know them. What's interesting is neither one of them, I think, officially confirmed exactly what happened. I guess they had some kind of agreement not to disclose that and feed the tabloid fodder. But what's curious is that former Michael Jackson accuser and flip-flopper on that. He originally defended Michael Jackson, then he said that Michael Jackson abused him. Wade Robson, apparently that's who Justin Timberlake thought Britney Spears was cheating on him with. Spears did not confirm or deny, and Robson's old girlfriend said that he was pursuing Britney Spears, but I don't know if there was any official corroboration on that. And Robson, of course, is a music video choreographer working with a lot of big pop stars. And so in the media, basically, Britney Spears was the one that was drugged through the mud, so to speak, as the cheater. And Justin Timberlake came out with the video Cry Me a River, supposedly about being cheated on by Britney Spears. And there's a Britney Spears lookalike in the video. Okay, so just to make that short, for the people who have done some serious digging, apparently there were sightings of Justin Timberlake with other random young women at clubs and such prior to the whole situation with Robson. So, is it possible they both cheated with each other, or Justin Timberlake was the only one cheating? I don't know. His interview with Barbara Walters is, of course, a little bit sketchy. For those that have seen that, he comes off as deceptive, of course. I'm not going to go through a big deep dive there, but again, let's not fall for black and white fallacies. Either or both could be true. However, there are, of course, timeline issues as Spears and Timberlake were seen together and even interviewed together after the alleged Robson situation. So, yeah, there's a lot of problematic and timeline issues regarding their split, but would Britney Spears be the type of person to call him out on cheating on her, or would she just never address that, regardless of whether she cheated herself or not? I don't know. I will leave that for the gossipers to discuss. Just wanted to address that quickly because this podcast is obviously not a hit piece on Britney Spears, and people seem to just take at face value certain information without considering all possibilities, especially when Spears has not officially gave her side of the story. 2003 to 2005, In the Zone and Marriages. In August 2003, Spears opened the MTV Video Music Awards with Christina Aguilera performing Like a Virgin. Halfway through, they were joined by Madonna, with whom they both kissed. The incident was highly publicized. In 2008, MTV listed the performance as the #1 opening moment in the history of MTV Video Music Awards, while Blender magazine cited it as one of the 25 sexiest music moments on television history. Spears released her 4th studio album, In the Zone, in November 2003. She assumed more creative control by writing and co-producing most of the material. Vibe called it a supremely confident dance record that also illustrates Spears' development as a songwriter. NPR listed the album as one of the top 50 most important recordings of the decade, adding that the decade's history of impeccably crafted pop is written on her body of work. In the Zone sold over 609,000 copies in the U.S. during its first week of availability in the U.S., debuting at the top of the charts, making Spears the first female artist in the SoundScan era to have her first 4 studio albums to debut at #1. It also debuted at the top of the charts in France and the top 10 in Belgium, Denmark, Sweden, and the Netherlands. In the Zone has sold 6 million copies worldwide. The album produced 4 singles: Me Against the Music, Another interesting, possible subliminal hinting at more going on behind the scenes with Britney Spears' career. A collaboration with Madonna, Toxic, which won Spears her first Grammy for Best Dance Recording, Every Time, and Outrageous. In January 2004, Spears married childhood friend Jason Allen Alexander at a Little White Wedding Chapel in Las Vegas, Nevada. The marriage was annulled 55 hours later following a petition to the court that stated Spears lacked understanding of her actions. In March 2004, she embarked on the Onyx Hotel tour in support of In the Zone. In June 2004, Spears fell and injured her left knee during the music video shoot for Outrageous. Spears underwent arthroscopic surgery. She was forced to remain 6 weeks with a thigh brace, followed by 8 to 12 weeks of rehabilitation, which caused the Onyx Hotel tour to be canceled. During 2004, Spears became involved in the Kabbalah Center through her friendship with Madonna. And cue the occult Illuminati connections. In July 2004, Spears became engaged to American dancer Kevin Federline, whom she had met 3 months before. The romance received intense attention from the media since Federline had recently broken up with actress Shar Jackson, who was still pregnant with their second child at the time. The stages of the relationship were chronicled in Spears' first reality TV show, Britney and Kevin Chaotic, which premiered on May 17, 2005 at UPN. Spears would later refer to the reality show in a 2013 interview as probably the worst thing I've done in my career. They held a wedding ceremony on September 18, 2004, but were not legally married until 3 weeks later on October 6th due to a delay finalizing the couple's prenuptial agreement. Shortly after, she released her first perfume with Elizabeth Arden, Curious, which broke the company's first week gross for a perfume. In October 2004, Spears took a career break to start a family. Greatest Hits, My Prerogative, her first Greatest Hits compilation album, was released in November 2004. Spears' cover version of Bobby Brown's My Prerogative was released as the lead single from the album, reaching the top of the charts in Finland, Ireland, Italy, and Norway. The second single, Do Something, was a top 10 hit in Australia, the UK, and other countries of mainland Europe. In August 2005, Spears released Someday I Will Understand, which was dedicated to her first child, a son, who was born the following month. In November 2004, she released her first remix compilation, Be in the Mix, The Remixes, which consists of 11 remixes. 2006 to 2007, Personal Struggles and Blackout. In February 2006, pictures surfaced of Spears driving with her son Sean on her lap instead of in a car seat. Child advocates were horrified by the photos of her holding the wheel with one hand and Sean with the other. Spears claimed that the situation happened because of a frightening encounter with paparazzi and that it was a mistake on her part. The following month, she guest starred on the Will and Grace episode Bye Bye Baby as closeted lesbian Amber Louise. She announced she no longer studied Kabbalah in 2006 in May, explaining, "My baby is my religion." That's a good quote. In August 2006, Spears posed nude for the cover of Harper's Bazaar. The picture was compared to Demi Moore's August 91 Vanity Fair cover. In September 2006, she gave birth to her second child, a son. In November 2006, Spears filed for divorce from Federline, citing irreconcilable differences. Their divorce was finalized in July 2007 when the couple reached a global settlement and agreed to share joint custody of their sons. Spears' aunt, Sandra Bridges Covington, with whom she had been very close, died of ovarian cancer in January 2007. In February, Spears stayed in a drug rehabilitation facility in Antigua for less than a day. The following night, she shaved her head with electric clippers at a hair salon in Tarzana, Los Angeles. She admitted herself to other treatment facilities during the following weeks. Now, in this period in her life, there were a lot of after-the-fact rumors, of course, MKUltra type breakdowns, and if you follow celebrity culture and all of this celebrity news, you have a lot of different celebrities. Amanda Bynes was also in the news a lot with alleged breakdowns of sorts. And those who point to some kind of Illuminati MKUltra mind control experiments say that this typically happens due to those experiments or MKUltra breaks in programming and things of that nature. Make of that what you will, but regarding the head shavings, I believe her manager or someone close to her at the time actually said the reason she did that is because she had to do a drug test to see her sons, and she apparently was doing drugs that would have been detected in her hair, and that's why she shaved her head to not fail a drug test or something of that nature. Again, I don't know if that apparently the manager, whoever was closer at the time, did in fact say that. Whether or not that is actually true is of course another matter. In May 2007, she produced a series of promotional concerts at House of Blues venues titled the M&M's Tour. In October 2007, Spears lost physical custody of her sons to Federline. The reasons of the court ruling were not revealed to the public. Spears was also sued by Louis Vuitton over her 2005 music video Do Something for upholstering her Hummer interior in counterfeit Louis Vuitton cherry blossom fabric, which resulted in the video being banned on European TV stations. In October 2007, Spears released her fifth studio album, Blackout. The album debuted atop the charts in Canada and Ireland, at number 2 in the US, Billboard 200, France, Japan, Mexico, and the UK, and the top 10 in Australia, Korea, New Zealand, and many European nations. In the US, Spears became the only female artist to have her first 5 studio albums debut at the top 2 slots of the chart. The album received positive reviews from the critics and has sold over 3 million copies worldwide. Blackout won Album of the Year at the 2008 MTV Europe Music Awards and was listed as the 5th best pop album of the decade by The Times. Spears performed the lead single Gimme More at the 2007 MTV Video Music Awards. The performance was widely panned by critics. Despite the criticism, the single enjoyed worldwide success, peaking at number 1 in Canada and within the top 10 in almost every country it charted. The second single, Piece of Me, reached the top of the charts in Ireland and reached the top 5 in Australia, Canada, Denmark, New Zealand, and the UK. The third single, Break the Ice, was released the following year and had moderate success due to Spears not being able to promote it properly. In December 2007, Spears began a relationship with paparazzo Adnan Ghalib. And that is another bizarre side story. 2008 to 2010, conservatorship and circus. In January 2008, Spears refused to relinquish custody of her sons to Federline's representatives. She was hospitalized at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center after police had arrived at her house, noted she appeared to be under the influence of an unidentified substance. The next day, Spears' visitation rights were suspended at an emergency court hearing, and Federline was given sole physical and legal custody of their children. She was committed to the psychiatric ward of Ronald Reagan UCLA Medical Center and put on a 5150 involuntary psychiatric hold under California state law. The court placed her under a conservatorship led by her father, Jamie Spears, and attorney Andrew Wallet. Wow. Would you hire an attorney named Andrew Wallet? And I wonder where his loyalties would lie, giving them complete control of her assets. She was released 5 days later. Man, that attorney's name is really Andrew Wallet. I mean, is this some kind of weird staged reality where those are the giveaways? I mean, that's a heck of a coincidence right there. They gave Andrew Wallet complete control of her assets. Huh. The following month, Spears guest starred on the show How I Met Your Mother, episode 10 Sessions, as receptionist Abby. She received positive reviews for her performance, as well as bringing the series its highest ratings ever. In July 2008, Spears regained some visitation rights after coming to an agreement with Federline and his counsel. In September 2008, Spears opened the MTV Video Music Awards with a pre-taped comedy sketch with Jonah Hill and an introduction speech. She won Best Female Video, Best Pop Video, and Video of the Year for Piece of Me. A 60-minute introspective documentary, Britney for the Record, was produced to chronicle Spears' return to the music industry. Directed by Phil Griffin, For the Record was shot in Beverly Hills, Hollywood, and New York City during the third quarter of 2008. The documentary was broadcast on MTV to 5.6 million viewers. For the 2 airings on the premiere night, it was the highest rating in its Sunday night time slot and in the network's history. In December 2008, Spears' 6th studio album, Circus, was released. It received positive reviews from critics and debuted at number 1 in Canada, Czech Republic, and the US, and within the top 10 in many European nations. In the US, Spears became the youngest female artist to have 5 albums debut at number 1, earning a place in the Guinness World Records. She also became the only act in the SoundScan era to have 4 albums debut with 500,000 or more copies sold. The album was one of the fastest-selling albums of the year and has sold 4 million copies worldwide. Its lead single, Womanizer, became Spears' first chart topper on the Billboard Hot 100 since Baby One More Time. The single also topped the charts in Belgium, Canada, Denmark, Finland, France, Norway, and Sweden. It was also nominated for the Grammy Award for Best Dance Recording. In January 2009, Spears and her father obtained a restraining order against her former manager, Sam Lutfi, ex-boyfriend Adnan Galib, and attorney John Eardley, all of whom had been claimed to conspire to gain control of Spears' affairs. Spears embarked on The Circus starring Britney Spears tour in March 2009. With a gross of US $131.8 million, it became the 5th highest grossing tour of the year. In November 2009, Spears released her second greatest hits album, The Singles Collection. The album's lead and only single 3 became her 3rd number 1 single in the US. In May 2010, Spears' representatives confirmed she was dating her agent, Jason Trewick, and that they had decided to end their professional relationship to focus on their personal relationship. Spears designed a limited edition clothing line for Candies, which was released in stores in July 2010. In September 2010, she made a cameo appearance on a Spears-themed tribute episode of the television series Glee, titled Britney Britney, with an both spellings. The episode drew the series' highest ratings. 2011-2012, Femme Fatale, and The X Factor. In March 2011, Spears released her 7th studio album, Femme Fatale. The album peaked at number 1 in the US, Canada, and Australia, and peaked within the top 10 on nearly every other chart. Its peak in the US tied Spears with Mariah Carey and Janet Jackson for the 3rd most number 1s among women. It has sold 1 million copies in the US and has been certified platinum by RIAA. The album's lead single, Hold It Against Me, debuted atop the Billboard Hot 100, becoming Spears' 4th number 1 single on the chart and making her the 2nd artist in history to have 2 consecutive singles debut at number 1 after Mariah Carey. The 2nd single, Till the World Ends, peaked at number 3 on Billboard Hot 100 in May, while the 3rd single, I Wanna Go, reached number 7 in August. Femme Fatale became Spears' first album in which 3 of its songs reached the top 10 of the chart. The 4th and final single, Criminal, was released in September 2011. The music video sparked controversy when British politicians criticized Spears for using replica guns while filming the video in a London area that had been badly affected by the 2011 England riots. Spears' management briefly responded, stating, "The video is a fantasy story featuring Britney's boyfriend Jason Trewick, which literally plays out the lyrics of a song written 3 years before the riots ever happened." In April 2011, Spears appeared in a remix of Rihanna's song S&M. It reached number 1 in the US later in the month, giving Spears her 5th number 1 on the chart. On Billboard's 2011 year-end list, Spears was ranked number 14 on the Artist of the Year, 32 on Billboard 200 Artists, and 10 on Billboard Hot 100 Artists. Spears co-wrote Riplash, a song from the album When the Sun Goes Down, 2011, by Selena Gomez and The Scene. In June 2011, Spears embarked on the Femme Fatale tour. The first 10 dates of the tour grossed $6.2 million, landing the 55th spot on Pollstar's Top 100 North American Tours list for the halfway point of the year. This tour ended on December 10th, 2011 in Puerto Rico after 79 performances. A DVD of the tour was released in November 2011. August 2011, Spears received the Michael Jackson Video Vanguard Award at the 2011 MTV Video Music Awards. The next month, she released her 2nd remix album, Be in the Mix, The Remixes Volume 2. In December 2011, Spears became engaged to her longtime boyfriend, Jason Trewick, who had formerly been her agent. Trewick gained legal control of Spears as his fiancé and became a co-conservator alongside her father in April 2012. In May 2012, Spears was hired to replace Nicole Scherzinger as a judge for the second season of the U.S. version of The X Factor, joining Simon Cowell, L.A. Reid, and fellow new judge Demi Lovato, who replaced Paula Abdul. With a reported salary of $15 million, she became the highest-paid judge on a singing competition series in television history. However, Katy Perry broke her record in 2018 after Perry was signed for a $25 million salary to serve as a judge on ABC's revival of American Idol. Spears mentored the teens category. Her final act, Carly Rose Sonnenklar, was named the runner-up of the season. Spears did not return for the show's third season. Spears appeared on the song Scream and Shout with will.i.am, which was released as the third single from his fourth studio album, Willpower. The song later became Spears' sixth #1 single on the UK singles chart and peaked at #3 on US Billboard Hot 100. Scream and Shout was among the best-selling songs of 2012 and 2013, with denoting sales of over 8.1 million worldwide. The accompanying music video was the third most viewed video in 2013 on Vivo, despite the video being released in 2012. In December 2012, Forbes named her music's top-earning woman of 2012, with estimated earnings of $58 million. 2013 to 2015, Britney Jean and Britney Piece of Me. Spears began work on her 8th studio album, Britney Jean, in December 2012 and enlisted will.i.am as its executive producer in May 2013. In January 2013, Spears and Jason Trewick ended their engagement. Trewick was also removed as Spears' co-conservator, restoring her father as the sole conservator. Following the breakup, she began dating David Lucato in March. The couple split August 2014. During the production of Britney Jean, Spears recorded the song Ooh La La for the soundtrack of The Smurfs 2, which was released in June 2013. On September 17, 2013, she appeared on Good Morning America to announce her 2-year concert residency at Planet Hollywood Resort and Casino in Las Vegas, titled Britney Piece of Me. It began on December 27, 2013, and included a total of 100 shows throughout 2014 and 2015. During the same appearance, Spears announced that Britney Jean would be released on December 3, 2013 in the U.S. It was released through RCA Records due to the disbandment of Jive Records in 2011, which had formed the joint RCA Jive label group, initially known as BMG label group, between 2007 and 2011. Britney Jean became Spears' final project under her original recording contract with Jive, which had guaranteed the release of 8 studio albums. The record received a low amount of promotion and had little commercial impact, reportedly due to time conflicts involving preparations for Britney Piece of Me. Upon its release, the record debuted at #4 on the US Billboard 200 with first week sales of 107,000 copies, becoming her lowest peaking and lowest selling album in the US. Britney Jean debuted at #34 on the UK albums chart, selling 12,959 copies in its first week. In doing so, it became Spears' lowest charting and lowest selling album in the country. Work Bitch was released as the single from Britney Jean on September 16, 2013, one day earlier than expected after being leaked online. It debuted and peaked at #12 on the US Billboard Hot 100, making Spears' 31st entry on the chart and the 5th highest debut of her career on the chart, and her 7th in the top 20. It also marked Spears' 19th top 20 entry and overall her 23rd top 40 single. The song marked Spears' highest sale debut since her 2011 #1 single, Hold It Against Me. Work Bitch debuted and peaked at #7 on the UK singles chart. The song also peaked within the top 10 charts in Brazil, Canada, France, Italy, Mexico, and Spain. The second single, Perfume, premiered on November 3, 2013, 2 days earlier than originally announced. It debuted and peaked at #76 on the US Billboard Hot 100. In October 2013, she was featured as a guest vocalist on the song SMS Bangers by Miley Cyrus from the latter's 4th studio album, Bangers. On January 8, 2014, Spears won Favorite Pop Artist at the 40th People's Choice Awards at the Microsoft Theater in Los Angeles. In August 2014, Spears confirmed she had renewed her contract with RCA and that she was writing and recording new music for her next album. Spears announced via Twitter in August 2014 that she would be releasing an intimate apparel line called The Intimate Britney Spears. It was available to be purchased beginning on September 9, 2014 in the US and Canada through Spears' Intimate Collection website. And I am sure all of the MindShock listeners want to know more about that. It was later available on September 25th for purchase in Europe. The company now ships to over 200 countries, including Australia and New Zealand. On September 25th, 2014, Spears confirmed on Good Morning Britain that she had extended her contract with the Axis and Planet Hollywood Resort and Casino to continue Britney Piece of Me for 2 additional years. Spears began dating television producer Charlie Ebersol in October 2014. The pair were split in June 2015. In March 2015, it was confirmed by People magazine that Spears would release a new single, Pretty Girls with Iggy Azalea, on May 4th, 2015. The song debuted and peaked at number 29 on the Billboard Hot 100 and charted moderately in international territories. Spears and Azalea performed the track live at the 2015 Billboard Music Awards from the Axis, the home of Spears' residency, to positive critical response. Entertainment Weekly praised the performance, noting Spears gave one of the most energetic televised performances in years. On June 16, 2015, Giorgio Moroder released his album Deja Vu that featured Spears on Tom's Diner. The song was released as the 4th single from the album on October 9th. In an interview, Moroder praised Spears' vocals and said that she did a good job with the song, and also stated that Spears sounds so good that you would hardly recognize her. At the 2015 Teen Choice Awards, Spears received the Candy Style Icon Award, her 9th Teen Choice Award. In November, Spears guest starred as a fictionalized version of herself on the CW series Jane the Virgin. On the show, she danced to Toxic with Gina Rodriguez's character. 2016 to 2018, Glory continued residency and the Piece of Me tour. In 2016, Spears confirmed via social media that she had begun recording her 9th studio album. On March 1st, 2016, V Magazine announced that Spears would appear on the cover of the 100th issue, dated March 8th, 2016, in addition to revealing 3 different covers shot by photographer Mario Testino for the milestone publication. Editor-in-chief of the magazine, Stephen Gann, revealed that Spears was selected for the V100 issue because of her status as an icon in the industry. On the decision, Gann stated, "Who in our world did not grow up listening to her music?" In May 2016, Spears launched a casual role-play gaming application titled Britney Spears American Dream. The app, created by Glue Mobile, was made available through both iOS and Google Play. On May 22, 2016, Spears performed a medley of her past singles at the 2016 Billboard Music Awards. In addition to opening the show, Spears was honored with the Billboard Millennium Award. On July 14, 2016, Spears released the lead single, Make Me, from her 9th studio album, featuring guest vocals from American rapper G-Eazy. The album Glory was formally released on August 26, 2016. On August 16, 2016, MTV and Spears announced she would perform at the 2016 MTV Video Music Awards. The performance marked Spears' first time returning to the VMA stage after her widely panned performance of Gimme More at the 2007 show 9 years earlier. Along with Make Me, Spears and G-Eazy also performed the latter's hit song Me, Myself, and I. Spears appeared on the cover of Mary Claire UK for the October 2016 issue. In the publication, Spears revealed that she had suffered from crippling anxiety in the past and that motherhood played a major role in helping her overcoming it. "My boys don't care if everything isn't perfect. They don't judge me," Spears said in the issue. In November 2016, during an interview with Las Vegas Blog, Spears confirmed she had already begun work on her next album, stating, "I'm not sure what I want the next album to sound like. I just know that I'm excited to get into the studio again and actually have already been back recording." In the same month, she released a remix version of Slumber Party as the 2nd single from Glory, featuring Tinashe. She began dating Slumber Party music video co-star Sam Asghari after the two met on set. In January 2017, Spears received 4 wins out of 4 nominations at the 43rd People's Choice Awards, including Favorite Pop Artist, Female Artist, Social Media Celebrity, as well as Comedic Collaboration for a skit with Ellen DeGeneres for The Ellen DeGeneres Show. In March 2017, Spears announced that her residency concert would be performed abroad as a world tour, Britney Live in Concert, with dates in select Asian cities. In April 2017, the Israeli Labour Party announced that it would reschedule its July primary election to avoid conflict with Spears' sold-out Tel Aviv concert, citing traffic and security concerns. That's actually quite an interesting record. Is that one of her Guinness World Records, that she is the only musician that has caused a primary election to be rescheduled in a country. Spears' manager Larry Rudolph also announced the residency would not be extended following her contract expiration with Caesars Entertainment at the end of 2017. On April 29, 2017, Spears became the first recipient of the Icon Award at the 2017 Radio Disney Music Awards. On November 4, 2017, Spears attended the grand opening of the Nevada Childhood Cancer Foundation Britney Spears campus in Las Vegas. Later that month, Forbes announced that Spears was the 8th highest earning female musician, earning $34 million in 2017. On December 31st, 2017, Britney performed the final show of Britney Piece of Me. The final performance reportedly brought in $1.172 million, setting a new box office record for a single show in Las Vegas and breaking the record previously held by Jennifer Lopez. The last show was broadcast live with performances of Toxic and Work Bitch airing on ABC's Dick Clark's New Year's Rocking Eve to a record audience of 25.6 million. In January 2018, Spears released her 24th perfume with Elizabeth Arden, Sunset Fantasy, and announced the Piece of Me tour, which took place in July 2018 in North America and Europe. Tickets were sold out within minutes for major cities, and additional dates were added to meet the demand. Pitbull was the supporting act for the European leg. The tour ranked at 86 and 30 on Pollstar's 2018 year-end Top 100 Tours chart, both in North America and worldwide, respectively. In total, the tour grossed $54.3 million, with 260,531 tickets sold, and was the 6th highest grossing female tour of 2018 and was the UK's second best-selling female tour of 2018. On March 20th, 2018, Spears was announced as part of a campaign of French luxury fashion house Kenzo. The company said it aimed to shake up the jungle world of fashion with Spears' La Collection Memento No. 2 campaign. On April 12, 2018, Spears was honored with the 2018 GLAAD Vanguard Award at the GLAAD Media Awards for her role in accelerating acceptance for the LGBTQ community. On April 27, 2018, Epic Rights announced a new partnership with Spears to debut her own fashion line in 2019, which would include clothing, fitness apparel, accessories, and electronics. In July 2018, Spears released her first unisex fragrance, Prerogative. On October 18, 2018, Spears announced her second Las Vegas residency show, Britney Domination, which was set to launch at Park MGM's Park Theater on February 13, 2019. Spears was slated to make $507,000 per show, which would have made her the highest paid act on the Vegas Strip. On October 21st, 2018, Spears performed at the Formula One Grand Prix in Austin, which ultimately served as the final performance of her Piece of Me tour. 2019 to the present, conservatorship dispute and the hashtag Free Britney movement. On January 4th, 2019, Spears announced an indefinite work hiatus and the cancellation of her planned Las Vegas residency after her father, Jamie, suffered a near-fatal colon rupture. In March 2019, Andrew Wallet resigned as her co-conservator of her estate after 11 years. Andrew Wallet. Wow, okay. Spears entered a psychiatric facility amidst... Andrew Wallet? Really? Really? Oh, man. Spears entered a psychiatric facility amidst stress from her father's illness that same month. The following month, a podcast titled Britney's Gram alleged that Jamie had canceled the planned residency due to Spears' refusal to take her medication, that he had been holding her in the facility against her will since January 2019 after she violated a no driving rule, and that her conservatorship was supposed to end in 2009. This gave rise to a movement to terminate the conservatorship dubbed hashtag Free Britney. It has garnered support from a number of celebrities, including Cher, Paris Hilton, and Miley Cyrus, as well as the nonprofit organization the American Civil Liberties Union. Following the podcast, fans staged a protest outside the West Hollywood City Hall on April 22, 2019. Spears stated that all was well 2 days later and had left the facility on April 26th. During a May 2019 hearing, Judge Brenda Penny ordered an expert evaluation of the conservatorship. In September 2019, Spears' ex-husband Federline obtained a restraining order against her father following an alleged physical altercation between her father and one of her sons. Spears' longtime care manager, Jody Montgomery, temporarily replaced Jamie as her conservator on September 10, 2019. In the same month, a hearing resulted in no decisions made about the arrangement. An interactive pop-up museum dedicated to Spears opened in Los Angeles in February 2020. She released Glory's Japanese exclusive bonus track Mood Ring and debuted a new cover of the album to streaming and digital platforms worldwide in May 2020. In August 2020, Jamie called the hashtag Free Britney movement a joke, and its organizers conspiracy theorists. There we have that word again. Critical thinkers are always conspiracy theorists in the eyes of coincidence theorists and those that are afraid of having the truth investigated. On August 17th, Spears' court-appointed lawyer submitted a court filing that documented Spears' desire to have her conservatorship altered to reflect her current lifestyle and her stated wishes, to instate Montgomery as her permanent conservator, and to replace Jamie with a qualified corporate fiduciary as conservator of her estate. So I guess not Andrew Wallet. Andrew Wallet. Oh, man. 4 days later, Judge Penny extended the establishment arraignment until February 2021, which is this month. In November 2020, Judge Penny approved Bessemer Trust as co-conservator of Spears' estate alongside Jamie. And before we go back to a lot of these issues with the conservatorship, isn't it kind of scary how someone who, so supposedly Britney Spears' mental evaluations are that she is not impaired, so, or at least her current ones. So it's kind of scary that somebody, especially as powerful as Britney Spears, complete adult, a mature adult at this stage anyway, I mean, we won't go into the past years, can't even do as they will with their own finances or with their life or business decisions. I mean, it's just absolutely mind-boggling and mind-shocking. Just really, really bizarre. So, some more background info here. Influences: Spears has cited Madonna, Janet Jackson, and Whitney Houston as being major influences in her career, her 3 favorite artists as a child, whom she would sing along to day and night in her living room. Houston's I Have Nothing was the song she auditioned to that landed her record deal with Jive Records. Spears also cites Mariah Carey as one of the main reasons she started singing. Throughout her career, Spears has drawn frequent comparisons to Madonna and Jackson in particular in terms of vocals, choreography, and stage presence. According to Spears, I know when I was younger I looked up to people like, Janet Jackson and Madonna, and they were major inspirations for me. But I also had my own identity and I knew who I was. In the 2002 book Madonna Style by Carol Clerk, she is quoted saying, I have been a huge fan of Madonna since I was a little girl. She's the person that I've really looked up to. I would really, really like to be a legend like Madonna. Spears cited That's the Way Love Goes as the inspiration for her song Touch of My Hand from her album In the Zone, saying, I like to compare it to That's the Way Love Goes, kind of a Janet Jackson thing. She also said her song Just Love Me from her Glory album also reminded her of That's the Way Love Goes. After meeting Spears face-to-face, Janet Jackson stated, she said to me, I'm such a big fan, I really admire you. That's so flattering. Everyone gets inspiration from someplace, and it's awesome to see someone else coming up who's dancing and singing and seeing how all these kids relate to her. A lot of people put it down, but what she does is a positive thing. Madonna said of Spears in the documentary Britney for the Record, I admire her talent as an artist. There are aspects about her that I recognize in myself when I first started out in my career. She has also named Michael Jackson, Mariah Carey, Sheryl Crow, Otis Redding, Shania Twain, Brandy, Beyonce, Natalie Imbruglia, Cher, and Prince as sources of inspiration. Spears has also felt inspired by artists of younger generations such as Selena Gomez and Ariana Grande. Musical style: Spears is described as a pop artist and generally explores the genre in the form of dance pop. Following her debut, she was credited with influencing the revival of teen pop in the late 1990s. Rob Sheffield of Rolling Stone wrote, Britney Spears carries on the classic archetype of the rock and roll teen queen, the dungaree doll, the angel baby who just has to make a scene. In a review of Baby One More Time, Stephen Thomas Erlewin of AllMusic referred to her music as a blend of infectious rap, inflected dance pop, and smooth balladry. Oops, I Did It Again saw Spears working with several R&B producers, which led to a combination of bubblegum, urban soul, and raga. Her third studio album, Britney, derived from the teen pop niche rhythmically and melodically, but was described as sharper, tougher than what came before, incorporating genres such as R&B, disco, and funk. Spears has explored and heavily incorporated the genres of electropop and dance music in her records, as well as influences of urban and hip-hop, which are most present in the Zone and Blackout. In the Zone also experiments with Eurotrance, reggae, and Middle Eastern music. Femme Fatale and Britney Jean were also heavily influenced by electronic music genres. Spears' ninth studio album, Glory, is more eclectic and experimental than her previously released work. She commented that it took a lot of time, it's really different. There are like 2 or 3 songs that go in the direction of more urban that I've wanted to do for a long time now, and I just haven't really done that. The music found on Baby One More Time and Oops, I Did It Again generally addresses themes as love and relationships from a teenager's point of view. Following the massive commercial success of her first 2 studio albums, Spears' team and producers wanted to maintain the formula that took her to the top of the charts. Spears, however, was no longer satisfied with the sound and themes covered on her records. She co-wrote 5 songs and chose each track's producer on her third studio album, Britney, which lyrics address the subjects of reaching adulthood, sexuality, and self-discovery. Sex, dancing, freedom, and love continued to be Spears' music main subjects on her subsequent albums. Her 5th studio effort, Blackout, also addresses issues such as fame and media scrutiny, most notably on the song Piece of Me. Spears' music has also been noted for some catchphrases. The opening in her debut single Baby One More Time, Oh Baby Baby, is considered to be one of her signature lines and has been parodied in the media by various artists such as Nicole Scherzinger and Ariana Grande. It has been used in varying forms throughout her music, such as simply Baby and Oh Baby, as well as the Blackout track Ooh Ooh Baby. On the initial development of Baby One More Time, Barry Weiss noted Spears' inception of the catch. Andrew Wallet, man. Andrew Wallet, the lawyer to manage your finances. Oh, man. All right, let's get focused here. Barry Weiss noted Spears' inception of the catchphrase from her strange ad-libbing during the recording of the song. He commented further, we thought it was really weird at first. It was strange. It was not the way Max wrote it. But it worked. We thought it would be a really good opening salvo for her. The opening line in Gimme More, It's Britney, bitch, has become another signature phrase. An early review of Blackout suggested... Andrew Wallet. Whoa. Okay. An early review... Oh, man. An early review of Blackout suggested the phrase was simply laughable. Amy Roberts of Bustle called it an indelible cultural turning point, transforming a frenetic, floundering moment in the superstar's career to one of strength and empowerment. Spears is a soprano. Other sources state that she possesses a contralto vocal range. Prior to her breakout success, she is described as having sung much deeper than her highly recognizable trademark voice of today. With Eric Foster White, who worked with Spears on her debut album Baby One More Time, being cited as shaping her voice over the course of a month, upon being signed to Jive Records to where it is today, distinctively, unmistakably Britney. Rami Yacoub, who co-produced Spears' debut album with lyricist Max Martin, commented, "I know from Dennis, Pop, and Max's previous productions, when we do song, there's kind of a nasal thing. With NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys, we had to push for that mid-nasal voice. When Britney did that, she got this kind of raspy, sexy voice." Guy Blackman of The Age wrote that the thing about Spears, though, is that her biggest songs, no matter how committee created or impossibly polished, have always been convincing because of her delivery, her commitment, and her presence. Spears expressly Andrew Wallet, whoa! Spears expresses perfectly the conflicting urges of adolescence, the tension between chastity and sexual experience, between hedonism and responsibility, between confidence and vulnerability. Producer William Orbit, who worked with Spears... Oh, this is going to be tough because of this Andrew Wallach guy. Man, he should have had a different name. Producer William Orbit, who worked with Spears on her album Britney... Would you have a lawyer named Andrew Wallet? I don't know. Producer William Orbit, who worked with Spears on her album Britney Jean, stated regarding her vocals, "Britney didn't get so big because she put on great shows. She got to be that way because her voice is unique. You hear two words and you know who is singing." Spears has also been criticized for her reliance on auto-tune and her vocals being over-processed on records. Erlewin criticized Spears' singing abilities in a review of her Blackout album, stating, "Never the greatest vocalist, her thin squawk could be dismissed early in her career as an adolescent learning the ropes, but nearly a decade later, her singing hasn't gotten any better, even if the studio tools to masquerade her weaknesses have." Wow, that is brutal. But if he listened to her sing as a child, I mean, she's clearly very, very talented, and she has broken out some live songs, namely something to talk about in live performances without any kind of lip syncing or auto tune that are quite powerful. So yeah, it's yeah, I don't know. It's I guess haters gonna hate. Joan Anderman of the Boston Globe remarked that Spears sounds robotic, nearly inhuman on her records, so processed is her voice by digital pitch shifters and synthesizers. Kayla Upadhyaya of the Michigan Daily has provided a different point of view, saying, "Auto-tuned and over-processed vocals define Spears' voice as an artist and in her music. Auto-tune isn't so much a gimmick as it is an instrument used to highlight, contort, and make a statement." Adam Markovitz of Entertainment Weekly opined that Spears is no technical singer, that's for sure, but backed by Martin and Dr. Luke's wall of pound, her vocals melt into a mix of baby talk coo and coital panting that is, in its own over-processed way, just as iconic and propulsive as Michael Jackson's yips or Eminem's snarls. That's an interesting take on it. Man, Andrew Wallet. The guy's name is Andrew Wallet. Okay. Stage performances and videos. Spears is known for her stage performances, particularly the elaborate dance routines which incorporate belly dancing and tempered erotic moves that are credited with influencing dance-heavy acts such as Danity Kane and the Pussycat Dolls. Rolling Stone readers voted Spears as the second favorite dancing musician. Spears is described as being much more shy than what her stage persona suggests. She has claimed that performing is a boost to her confidence. It's like an alter ego type thing. And that's something else too, the whole alter ego thing. I'd probably have to do a podcast on that in its own right, but it's got some deep occult roots. A lot of stars, particularly singers, refer to this alter ego. Some people believe it's tied to this MKUltra, split personality, side effects, and all of these things. Something clicks and I go and turn into this different person. I think it's kind of a gift to be able to do that. Her 2000, 2001, and 2003 MTV Video Music Awards performances were lauded, while her 2007 presentation was widely panned by critics as she teetered through her dance steps and mouthed only occasional words. Billboard called her 2016 comeback performance at the show an effective but not entirely glorious bid to regain pop superstardom. After her knee injuries and personal struggles, Spears' showmanship and dance abilities came under criticism. Serge F. Kovaleski of the New York Times watched her Las Vegas concert residency in 2016 and said, "Once a fluid natural dancer, Miss Spears can appear stiff, even robotic today, relying on flailing arms and flashy sets." Las Vegas Sun's Robin Leach seemed more impressed over Spears' efforts on the concert by saying that she delivered a flawless performance on the residency's opening night. It has been widely reported that Spears lip-syncs during live performances, which often draws criticism from music critics and concert goers. Some, however, claimed that although she got plenty of digital support, she doesn't merely lip-sync during her live shows. In 2016, Sabrina Weiss of Refinery 29 referred to her lip-syncing as well-known fact that's not even taboo anymore. Noting on the prevalence of lip-syncing, Los Angeles Daily News opined, "In the context of a Britney Spears concert, does it really matter? You just go for the somewhat ridiculous spectacle of it all." Spears has commented on the topic, saying, "Because I'm dancing so much, I do have a little bit of playback, but there's a mixture of my voice and the playback," she added. "It really pisses me off because I'm busting my ass out there and singing at the same time, and nobody ever gives me credit for it." Well, I would say her real fans do. In 2012, VH1 ranked Spears as the fourth greatest woman of the video era, while Billboard ranked her as the eighth greatest music video artist of all time in 2020, explaining the storylines, the outfits, the dancing. Right from the start, the pop princess established the lengths of her creativity with some of the most memorable videos of the last 3 decades. She has been retroactively noted as the pioneer for her early career videography. She conceptualized the iconic Catholic schoolgirl and cheerleader motif in the Baby One More Time video, rejecting the animation video idea. She also made the Oops, I Did It Again video dance-centric rather than space-centric, as her producers suggested. She also used her dancers' intuition to help select the beats for each track. Public image. Upon launching her music career with Baby One More Time, Spears was labeled a teen idol, and Rolling Stone described her as the latest model of a classic product. The unneurotic pop star who performs her duties with vaudevillian pluck and spokesmodel charm. The April 1999 cover of Rolling Stone featured Spears lying on her bed wearing an open top, revealing her bra and shorts while clutching a Teletubby. The American Family Association referred to the shoot as a disturbing mix of childhood innocence and adult sexuality, and called on God-loving Americans to boycott stores selling Britney's albums. Spears responded to the outcry, commenting, "What's the big deal? I have strong morals. I'd do it again. I thought the pictures were fine, and I was tired of being compared to Debbie Gibson and all of this bubblegum pop all the time." Shortly before, Spears had announced publicly that she would remain abstinent until marriage. An early criticism of Spears dismissed her as a manufactured pop star, the product of a Swedish songwriting factory that had no real hand in either her music or her persona, which Vox editor Constance Grady assesses as being perpetuated from the fact that Spears debuted in the late 90s when music was dominated by rockism that prizes so-called authenticity and grittiness of rock above all else. Spears' slick, breezy pop was an affront to rockist sensibilities, and claiming that Spears was fake was an easy way to dismiss her. Ron Levy for Rolling Stone noted that, "I have to tell you, if the record company could have created more than one Britney Spears, they would have done it, and they tried." And of course, the occultists and hardcore conspiracy theorists with their tinfoil hats would say that that was a nod to the cloning situation and the cloning theories, which we will be getting to shortly. Billboard opined that by the time she released her sophomore album, Oops, I Did It Again, there was a shift occurring in both the music and her public image. She was sharper, sexier, and singing about more grown-up fare, setting the stage for 2001's Britney, which shed her innocent skin and ushered her into adulthood. Britney's lead single, I'm a Slave for You, and its video were also credited for distancing her from her wholesome bubblegum star image of the past. Stephen Thomas Erlewin of AllMusic commented, if 2001's Britney was a transitional album capturing Spears at the point when she wasn't a girl and not yet a woman, its 2003 follow-up In the Zone is where she finally completed that journey and turned into Britney the adult woman. Erlewine compared Spears to fellow singer Christina Aguilera, explaining that both equated maturity with transparent sexuality and the pounding sounds of nightclubs. Brittany Spanos of LA Weekly said that Spears set the bar for the adulthood transition teen pop stars often struggled with. Spears' erratic behavior and personal struggles during 2006 through 2008 were highly publicized and affected both her career and public image. Erlewine reflected on that time of her life by saying that each new disaster was stripping away any residual sexiness in her public image. In a 2008 article, Rolling Stone's Vanessa Grigoriadis described her much publicized personal issues as the most public downfall of any star in history. Wow, sounds like some people could be jealous, huh? Spears later received favorable media attention. Billboard claimed that her appearance at the 2008 MTV Music Video Awards was a picture of professionalism and poise after her disastrous 2007 performance at the show. While Business Insider published an article about how Spears lost control of her life and then made an incredible career comeback, Spears later reflected on that tumultuous time of her life and career. I think I had to give myself more breaks through my career and take responsibility for my mental health. I wrote back then that I was lost and didn't know what to do with myself. I was trying to please everyone around me because that's who I am deep inside. There are moments where I look back and think, what the hell was I thinking? In September 2002, she was ranked 8th on VH1's 100 Sexiest Artists list, and in December 2012, Complex ranked her 12th on its 100 Hottest Female Singers of All Time list. Spears commented on her sex symbol image by saying, when I'm on stage, that's my time to do my thing and go there and be that. And it's fun, it's exhilarating just to be something that you're not, and people tend to believe it. Now that's an interesting and intelligent comment there that shows a good amount of self-awareness. In 2003, People magazine cited her as one of the 50 most beautiful people. Spears is recognized as a gay icon and was honored with the 2018 GLAAD Vanguard Award at the GLAAD Media Awards for her role in accelerating acceptance for the LGBTQ community. Spears addressed the unwavering loyalty and lack of judgment of her LGBTQ fans in Billboard's love letters for the LGBTQ community. She said, your stories are what inspire me, bring me joy, and make me and my sons strive to be better people. Manuel Betancourt of Vice magazine wrote about the queer adoration, especially of gay men, on Spears and said that where other gay icons exude self-possession, Spears' fragile resilience has made her an even more fascinating role model, closer to Judy Garland than to Lady Gaga. She's a glittering mirror ball, a fractured reflection of those men on the dance floor back onto themselves. HuffPost's Ben Appel attributed Spears' status as a gay icon to her oh-so-innocent, not that innocent, Monroe-like sensuality, her sweet, almost saccharine nature, her beyond basic but addictive pop songs, her dance moves, her Phoenix out of the fire comeback from a series of mental health crises, and her unmistakable tenderness. Britney is camp, she is a fashion plate, a doll. Britney is a drag queen. Since her early years of stardom, Spears became a tabloid fixture and a paparazzi target. Steve Huey of AllMusic claimed that among female singers of Spears' era, her celebrity star power was rivaled only by Jennifer Lopez. Britney Spears was Yahoo's most popular search term between 2005 and 2008, and has been in a total of 7 different years. Spears was named as most searched person in the Guinness World Record Book edition 2007 and 2009. She was later named as the most searched person of the decade, 2000 through 2009. As a public figure, Spears has never been very publicly political. In October 2001, she registered as a Republican in Louisiana, according to public records. In a September 2003 interview on CNN, she spoke about then U.S. President George W. Bush and the Iraq War by saying, we should just trust our president in every decision that he makes and be faithful in what happens. In 2016, she posted pictures of a meeting with Hillary Clinton on social media. In December 2016, Spears publicly showed support for the DREAM Act in the wake of the announcement that Donald Trump would end the DACA policy, which previously granted undocumented immigrants who came to the country as minors a renewable 2-year period of deferred action from deportation. She posted a photo of herself on social media wearing a black t-shirt that reads, "We're all dreamers," in white letters, the caption read, "Tell Congress to pass the DREAM Act." In 2020, during the COVID-19 pandemic, Spears posted an image on her Instagram account stating, during this time of isolation, we will feed each other, redistribute wealth, strike. We will understand our own importance from the places we must stay." Along with 3 emoji roses, a symbol commonly used by the Democratic Socialists of America, she later voiced support for the Black Lives Matter movement and George Floyd protests in the wake of his murder, saying, "My heart breaks for my friends in the black community and for everything going on in our country. Right now, I think we should all do what we can to listen, learn, do better, and use our voices for good." Legacy. Referred to as the Princess of Pop, Spears was credited as one of the driving forces behind the return of teen pop in the late 90s. Rolling Stone's Stacey Lamb explained that she helped to usher in a new era for the genre that had gone dormant in the decade that followed New Kids on the Block. Spears would lead an army of pop stars built on slick Max Martin productions, plenty of sexual innuendo, and dance-heavy performances. She became one of the most successful artists of all time and a cautionary tale for a generation, whether they paid attention or not. Glamour magazine contributor Christopher Rosa describes her as one of pop music's defining voices. When she emerged onto the scene in 1998 with Baby One More Time, the world hadn't seen a performer like her, not since Madonna had a female artist affected the genre so profoundly. Billboard's Robert Kelly observed that Spears' sexy and coy vocals on her debut single Baby One More Time kicked off a new era of pop vocal stylings that would influence countless artists to come. In 2020, Rolling Stone ranked the song at number 1 on a list of the 100 greatest debut singles of all time, and Rob Sheffield described it as one of those pop manifestos that announces a new sound, a new era, a new century, but most of all, a new star. With Baby One More Time, Spears changed the sound of pop forever. It's Britney, bitch. Nothing was ever the same. Aleem Kiraj of Dazed called Spears one of pop's most important pioneers. After 18 years as a performer, Billboard described her as having earned her title as one of pop's reigning queens. Since her early days as a mouseketeer, Spears has pushed the boundaries of 21st century sounds, paving the way for a generation of artists to shamelessly embrace glossy pop and redefine how one can accrue consistent success in the music industry. Entertainment Weekly's Adam Markovitz described Spears as an American institution, as deeply sacred and messed up as pro wrestling or the filibuster. In 2012, she was ranked as the 4th VH1's 50 Greatest Women of the Video Era show list. VH1 also cited her among its choices on the 100 Greatest Women in Music in 2012 and the 200 Greatest Pop Culture Icons in 2003. In 2020, Billboard ranked her 8th on its 100 Greatest Music Video Artists of All Time list. Spears' work has influenced numerous artists, including Katy Perry, Meghan Trainor, Demi Lovato, Kelly Key, Christiana DeBarge, Little Boots, Charli XCX, Marina Diamandis, Tegan and Sara, Pixie Lott, Grimes, Selena Gomez, Haley Steinfeld, Pablo Vittar, Tinashe, Victoria Justice, Cassie, Leah Wellbaum of Sloth Rust, The Saturdays, Normani, Miley Cyrus, Cheryl, Lana Del Rey, Ava Max, Billie Eilish, Sam Smith, and Rina Sawayama. And I do not know most of those people. Okay, during the 2011 MTV Video Music Awards, Lady Gaga said that Spears taught us all how to be fearless and the industry wouldn't be the same without us. Gaga has also cited Spears as an influence, calling her the most provocative performer of my time. Before Spears joined the X Factor, Simon Cowell explained that he is fascinated by Britney. The fact that she's one of the most talked about, not just pop stars, but people in the world today means that you've got this star power. She's still hot, she's still having hit records, and she's still controversial. There's a reason for that. Marina Diamandis named Spears as the main influence behind her album Electra Heart, Lana Del Rey has said that the music video for Toxic inspires her. Spears has a direct influence on singer Porcelain Black's work after growing up around her music as a child. Black describes her music as a love child between Marilyn Manson and Spears. Rita Ora's music video for Only Want You was inspired by Spears' Every Time music video and said in a stories from Instagram, "Hey, Britney Spears, this was for you because I love you so. Pay homage to the ones who inspire you. #icon." Spears has been credited with redefining Las Vegas residencies as a retirement place for musicians. Britney Piece of Me was described as the natural evolution of Celine Dion's powerhouse Vegas residency, a still charting star of another generation, redefining the role of strip headliner. Forbes named Spears the 6th highest earning female musician of 2015. She is credited with influencing and paving the way for other artists' residencies such as Jennifer Lopez, All I Have, Bruno Mars's Bruno Mars at Park MGM, and Backstreet Boys Larger Than Life. The arrival of Spears saw the pop promoters finally tap into the younger crowd arriving in town for a good time. Spears' much publicized personal struggles and her career comeback after this period has inspired some artists. Gwyneth Paltrow's character in the 2010 film Country Strong was inspired by the singer's treatment by the media. According to film director Shayna Fest, that's where this movie came from. I mean, I was seeing what was happening in the media to Britney Spears. I think it's tragic how we treat people who give us so much, and we love to see them knocked down, to build them back up again, to knock them down again. Nicki Minaj has cited Spears' comeback after her much-publicized personal issues as an inspiration. Spears' hounding by paparazzi and personal struggles also contributed to inspiring Barry Manilow's album 15 Minutes. Manilow said she couldn't have a life without them pulling up next to her car and following her and driving her crazy to the point where that was around the time she shaved off her hair. We all looked at it in horror, so it seemed like a thing to be writing an album about. Bebo Norman wrote a song about Spears called Britney, which was inspired by culture's make-or-break treatment of celebrities. Awards and achievements. Throughout her career, Spears has earned numerous awards and accolades, including a Grammy Award, 13 Guinness World Records, 6 MTV Video Music Awards, including the Michael Jackson Video Vanguard Award, 7 Billboard Music Awards, including the Millennium Award, and the inaugural Radio Disney Icon Award, the GLAAD Media Awards Vanguard Award, and a star in the Hollywood Hall of Fame. She is listed by the Guinness World Records as having the best-selling album by a teenage solo artist for her debut album, Baby One More Time, which sold over 13 million copies in the U.S. Melissa Ruggieri of the Richmond Times-Dispatch reported she's also marked for being the best-selling teenage artist. Before she turned 20 in 2001, Spears had sold over 37 million albums worldwide. As of 2017, according to the BBC, she has sold over 100 million records worldwide, making her one of the best-selling music artists of all time, and more than 70 million records in the US, including 36.9 million digital singles and 33.6 million digital albums. Spears is also recognized as the best-selling female album artist of the 2000s in the US, as well as 5th overall. In December 2009, Billboard ranked Spears the 8th artist of the 2000s decade in the United States. She is one of the few artists in history to have had a #1 single and #1 studio album in the US during each of the 3 decades of her career. With 3 in 2009 and Hold It Against Me in 2011, she became the second artist after Mariah Carey in the Hot 100's history to debut at #1 with 2 or more songs. In 2016, Spears ranked at number 20 on Billboard's Greatest of All Time Top Dance Club Artists list. Philanthropy. Spears founded the Britney Spears Foundation, a charitable entity set up to help children in need. The philosophy behind the foundation was that music and entertainment has a healing quality that can benefit children. The foundation also supported the annual Britney Spears Camp for the Performing Arts, where campers had the opportunity to explore and develop their talents. In April 2002, through the efforts of Spears and the Britney Spears Foundation, a grant of $1 million was made to the Twin Towers Fund to support the children of uniformed service heroes affected by the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001, including New York City Fire Department and the Emergency Medical Services Command, the New York City Police Department, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, the New York State Office of Court Administration, and other government offices. However, it was reported in 2008 that the foundation had a deficit of $200,000. After the singer went through the conservatorship, her father and lawyer, Andrew Wallet, zeroed out the effort, leading to its closure in 2011. which is quite sad. Britney Spears probably would have wanted that to continue, but her father and lawyer Andrew Wallet might have wanted to line their wallets further. On October 30th, 2001, Spears, alongside Bono and other popular recording artists under the name Artists Against AIDS Worldwide, released an album consisting of multiple versions of Marvin Gaye's What's Going On, with the intention to benefit AIDS programs in Africa and other impoverished regions. In the wake of Hurricane Katrina in 2006, Spears donated $350,000 to Music Rising. Later in 2011, the singer raised $200,000 during an evening of Southern style at a private residence in Beverly Hills to benefit the St. Bernard Project, with the help of several celebrities including Hilary Duff, Selena Gomez, Kelly Osbourne, Kellen Lutz, and Kim Kardashian. Spears has also helped several charities during her career, including Madonna's Kabbalah-based Spirituality for Kids. That sounds ominous. Cancer charity Gilda's Club Worldwide, Promises Foundation, The United Way, with the latter focusing on giving families with various disadvantaged situations new hope and stable foundations for the future. October 24, 2015, Spears donated $120,000 to the Nevada Childhood Cancer Foundation. In addition, $1 of each ticket sale for her Las Vegas residency, Britney Piece of Me, was donated to the nonprofit organization. Spears also fundraised for the charity through social media, in addition to selling limited edition merchandise, with all proceeds going to the NCCF. On October 27, 2016, Spears partnered with Zappos and X-Cycle to host the Britney Spears Piece of Me charity ride in Boca Park, Las Vegas, to raise additional money towards her goal of $1 million for the NCCF, with $450,000 having already been raised from Spears' ticket sales and merchandise. Participants were entered for a chance to win a spin class with Spears herself. The event ultimately went on to raise $553,130. The fundraising ultimately led to the development of the NCCF Britney Spears campus in Las Vegas, which saw its grand opening on November 4th, 2017. Spears also regularly participates in Spirit Day to combat bullying of LGBTQ youth and bullying. In March 2020, Spears was participating in the hashtag Do Your Part challenge. I thought that said Do Your Pet challenge. Oh man, Andrew Wallet's got me seeing funny. Spears was participating in the hashtag Do Your Part challenge, which entails helping people with anything they might need during the coronavirus crisis. She told fans to send her messages on Instagram if they needed supportive words during the coronavirus pandemic, with Spears picking 3 fans. Okay, so now that we have an extensive background on Britney Spears and all these timelines, there's a couple things curiously not mentioned here. And of course, the number one thing we will be talking about is an album known as Original Doll, featuring the song Mona Lisa. This, of course, is nowhere to be found on the official Wikipedia, and its very existence denied by record labels, which is very curious. So I will be reading 2 articles here, which are both similar, but they kind of encompass the conspiracy for the cloning, and even if we take the cloning out of the picture, it still leaves a few other issues on the table, including how Britney Spears was treated, how her career was supposedly out of her hands for a period of time, even before the conservatorship, and all of these shady dealings that encompass the Britney Spears conspiracy. This is an article written on Medium.com by Ranuk Nambiar, March 3rd, 2019. Britney asked for help, and no one listened. Ladies and gentlemen, I've got a little story to tell about Mona Lisa and how she suddenly fell. Britney Spears is unequivocally a cultural icon. She has provided iconic, timeless moments for each generation. From her debut with Baby One More Time that defined the late 90s to her infamous Slave for You performance with an albino Burmese python at the MTV Video Music Awards. Of course, this was just one of her many memorable performances, from the time she stripped to a nude-colored bodysuit for Oops, I Did It Again, to kissing Madonna on the lips in front of Justin Timberlake, and I'll bet infamously her tumultuous return and underwhelming opening at the 2007 VMAs. Of course, along with all this looms her mental health struggles, which culminated in what is likely her darkest year. From hooking up with a member of the paparazzi to bashing the car of another's with an umbrella after shaving her head clean, Britney was in the headlines for all the wrong reasons. When she performed that year at the VMAs, it was clear that the Princess of Pop was not ready for the stage again. Following rehabilitation, a messy divorce, a custody battle, and the control of her finances being handed over to her father, Britney finally returned with her far more successful Circus. The events of that year still resonate with pop culture today, with Katy Perry having ignorantly joked about it on the Grammys red carpet a year back. As outsiders, we can label Britney however we like, from a poor role model to an ineffective mother, from a harlot to an unprofitable alcoholic. What we must remember, however, is that on a cold winter's day in 2004, at the height of her fame with Toxic, Britney Spears illegally premiered an unreleased song on the radio. A song that would eerily mimic itself in reality as she would slowly lose herself and break down. As the story goes, the radio station Kiss FM received a call from someone claiming to be Britney Spears, and how they wanted to premiere a new song on the radio. As anyone else would, Jesse Lozano, the host of the station, dismissed the call as a prank. Someone like Britney Spears, whose fame at the time is comparable to that of Taylor Swift, would never just randomly call a station and put out a song. Sure enough, of course, the one, the only, Britney Spears shows up at the station with her dog, her bodyguard, and an unmarked CD in hand. A shell-shocked Lozano and Britney quickly settle in for this unscripted appearance. Britney, while sounding chirpy, does refrain from conversing. Instead, she is more keen to get the song played. This new song, titled Mona Lisa, was in Spears' words expected to be the lead single from her supposed follow-up to In the Zone, titled Original Doll. And then, of course, even Original Doll there denotes that there are other dolls made from the original doll, and this is the first doll. As per Q, and also, of course, Mona Lisa itself, obviously very popular for being forged, one of the most forged pieces of art, and that's without even getting into the occult significance of Mona Lisa. Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa. As per Q, this song plays. However, the song is anything but a Toxic 2.0. At the time, Spears was a cultural and defining sex icon who was known more for her sensuality than her lyricism. However, on this track, we see Spears deliver her most vulnerable and eerie performance yet. Music can induce a variety of emotions: love, lust, hatred, jealousy, and sadness. However, very few tracks ever instill a sense of fear in the listener. Mona Lisa undoubtedly is one of these ominous tunes. The song revolves around a woman by the name of Mona Lisa. Mona Lisa is one of the most well-known and culturally significant paintings to ever exist. Its home, the Louvre, reported that a good majority of visitors came solely to see this one painting. Hence, she is referring to herself as Mona Lisa. Just like those visitors, the world was tantalized and obsessed with Britney Spears. They couldn't have enough of her. Everything she touched turned to gold. Her relationship with Timberlake was one of the most high-profile romances to ever exist. Britney Spears was the most valuable item anyone could have in possession. But that's the thing. They treated her as a prized asset, not as a human. The paparazzi had no regard for Britney's personal space and frequently stalked her for days on end. Her house would be crowded with photographers like roaches. Every little misstep of hers was broadcast repeatedly for the world to relish. Privacy was a distant dream. A photo of Britney Spears could fetch more money than the next 3 celebrities on the list combined. She was a walking, talking gold mine, and they exploited her for it. In the song, she sings, "Ladies and gentlemen, I've got a story to tell about Mona Lisa and how she suddenly fell. Now see, everyone knew her, they knew her oh so well. Now I'm taking over to release her from her spell." Again, how occultish are those references? Yes, She said that. The song actually has two characters. One is this Mona Lisa, the other is the real Britney Spears. At the time, her generation of stars, like Christina Aguilera and Justin Timberlake, all had successful but generic pop hits. It was clear that every move of Britney was controlled by her label. Even her lyrical content was moderated by her team. Even today, Britney has held up that sex appeal image of hers. However, it was clear that she didn't want that anymore. She wanted to be freed from the strings. This is solidified in the bridge where she croons, "Now ladies, does that make you cry? Huh? Now fellas, you have to say goodbye, 'cause Mona Lisa's got to fly. Everyone, may we have a moment of silence." Mona Lisa, aka the fake Britney, was coming to a closure. Britney was just a step away from pulling back the curtains and revealing her true self. In a way, she was getting ready to kill the old Britney. Sound familiar? It's important to remember the position Britney was in. There was no Twitter or Instagram where she could directly communicate with the public. No Twitter rants or calling out of people. Any hint of rebellion could be silenced by record labels, which is what makes the knowledge of this song that much bigger of a miracle. It showcases the hurdles Britney had to overcome, from her over-controlling label to her possessive team and finally the paparazzi. It shows how desperately she wanted to be heard and she was willing to do anything for it. 1 week after the premiere of the song, her record label would deny the existence of any upcoming album. The version of Mona Lisa that was heard on the radio would never see the light of day. And the one that would appear on the Chaotic EP is a far more conservative remix. Britney's life would also take a turn for the worst, as her life would instead turn into a reality show for the world to gorge on. Any music that was planned on an original doll is either buried or erased altogether. Without major internet connections, it was difficult to leak it as well. It was clear that Britney was planning something that would upturn the conventional hierarchy of label and artist, that would have revolutionized the industry in a way comparable to the Weinstein effect. Unfortunately, we may never know what would have happened. After 3 problematic years, Britney would return with her 5th studio album, Blackout. None of the tracks scheduled for Original Doll would make it on Blackout, and Britney has never referenced the lost album ever again. In today's time, record label censorship and the consequences of fame is still an open secret. Of course, the only difference is that Twitter now exists, and artists can at any time express their opinion sans censorship. But imagine, if even now this exists, then fathom the levels of silencing that occurred back in the day. The only hint of this we have is a low-quality 3-minute clip from an interview where Britney Spears premiered a song that would never be heard again. And here are their full lyrics here. This is the story about Mona Lisa, the Mona Lisa. Ladies and gentlemen, I've got a little story to tell about Mona Lisa and how she suddenly fell. See, everyone knew her. They knew her oh so well. Now I am taking over to release her from her spell. She's the original. She's unforgettable. She wants you to know she's been gone. It's kind of incredible. She's so unpredictable. She wants you to know she's been gone, she's been gone, she's been gone. She was taken under, drowning in her sea, running like an angel. She was crying and could not see. Oh no, now see, everyone's watching as she starts to fall. They want her to break down, be a legend of her fall. I mean, is this a weird, dark premonition? I mean, it's very, very eerie. She's the original, she's unforgettable, and she wants you to know she's been gone. It's kind of incredible. She's so unpredictable, she wants you to know she's been gone, she's been gone, she's been gone. Ladies, does that make you cry? Mona Lisa's got to fly. Nobody really dies. Everyone, may we have a moment of silence right here. God. She's the original, she's unforgettable, she wants you to know she's been gone. It's kind of incredible, she's so unpredictable. She wants you to know that she's home, that she's home. She's the original, she's the unforgettable. She wants you to know she's been gone. It's kind of incredible. She's so unpredictable. She wants you to know that she's home, that she's home, that she's home. Nobody really dies. So is that indicative of cloning right there? There's also a couple of changed lyrics to now don't have a breakdown, you will hit the freaking wall. And then, of course, the she's been cloned lines. Also, she's been cloned. Mona Lisa, she's been cloned. What is she trying to say here? You almost can't make this stuff up. And what followed was a period of turmoil for her. So was this her trying to break free of these contracts and other people controlling her at that time, and then she failed to do so, and this caused a major breakdown? Was this a result of some MKUltra mind control experiments, or was she really cloned? And it is quite a rabbit hole to look at some of these celebrity cloned videos. Some of them are obvious nonsense. Others, they seem to have some interesting points about the shapes of skulls and all these things, but is it possible that celebrities could have doubles simply like political figures? Not necessarily for safety, but if you're that rich and you don't want to do certain appearances, I mean, would you have a double? I don't know. There's a lot. Again, let's not fall for black and white fallacies. Maybe she was cloned, maybe she wasn't. Maybe she did have a double. And I'm going to go over one more article which goes into a little bit more background here. This was posted April 27th, 2014 by Hunter Schwartz. This is BuzzFeed.com, The Secret History of Britney Spears' Lost Album. 10 years ago, Britney Spears said she was working on an album called Original Doll, but her label denied its existence. The search for Britney's lost album and the freedom that still eludes her. The KISS-FM offices in Burbank, California were nearly deserted the day Britney Spears called. It was December 2004, just before New Year's Eve. And Jesse Lozano was filling in for the regular host who was on vacation. Britney Spears is on the phone, he was told. She says she wants to play her new song. Lozano thought it was a prank. Usually you don't believe that, he told BuzzFeed in March, but an hour later the singer was outside the station's Burbank studio with a bodyguard, her chihuahua, and Lozano recalled no shoes. She had a CD with her and said, "Can we play it on the air?" Britney Spears live in studio. Do you have to take a super secret CIA mission secure route to Burbank from your crib so you don't get followed? Lozano asked. So that's how he's starting this interview. Already references to super secret CIA terminology. Oh man, Andrew Wallet. All right. She responds, no. He says, I didn't see anybody outside. She says, I know, it's awesome. I walked out there. There wasn't one camera anywhere. She says, I know, it's great. Well, thanks for hanging tonight. Good luck with your album. It's untitled. It's probably going to be titled Original Doll. So, and it's half done? Yeah, it's halfway done right now. All right, so maybe by the summer, maybe by the fall. She says, yeah, maybe a little bit earlier. They came back from commercial break. Spears introduced the song she'd come to play, Mona Lisa. It was the first and last time Mona Lisa would be on the radio. A representative for Jive, her record label, told Billboard a week later that the song wouldn't be serviced to radio and no album is scheduled at the moment. They did, however, note that Spears was in the studio working on some material. Today, our pop stars tend to be open and imperfect, a byproduct of the social media age. Miley Cyrus and Justin Bieber are in their fans' feeds, selling their music but also talking about their lives. But 10 years ago, when Britney brought Mona Lisa to the radio station, there was no Instagram, only TRL. Original Doll and what Spears hoped it would become represented a shift in the pop music landscape away from the Disney-groomed turn-of-the-century pop star toward something more honest and raw that we see today in Lorde, Rihanna, and others. Lorde? Rihanna, and others. The 22-year-old Spears didn't have a Twitter account to vent with, or a SoundCloud page she could post her songs on, but for a small window of time, she managed to bypass the gatekeepers to tell the public what was on her mind. She had long been criticized as a puppet, but Original Doll was her attempt to cut the strings. But it would be 3 years, 2 trips to rehab, and 1 divorce before she would release another studio album. And by then, Original Doll was scrapped and forgotten. While some of the songs, which may have ended up on the album like Mona Lisa, were eventually leaked or released, the mystery of Britney Spears' lost album remains, and piecing together its story offers a rare and revealing look inside the mind of a carefully managed pop icon before her fall. Over the years, fans have put together mock Original Doll album covers and created their own track lists culled from B-sides and leaked tracks. Message board threads devoted to the album have stirred speculation and conspiracy theories, and every so often users claiming to have a friend of a friend who worked at Jive who would post an alleged detail. However, multiple former employees of Jive told BuzzFeed they were unfamiliar with the album, and a source who worked with Spears during the time said Original Doll was never scheduled internally. Anything Spears said was it was just her talking about her plans. She didn't say much, just 22 words in a single interview. But Original Doll has become Spears' Smile, the infamous Abandoned Beach Boys album, and a fascinating piece of pop folklore. Those who worked with Spears prior to Mona Lisa said she wanted to be more involved in the songwriting process. Songwriter Michelle Bell first met Spears in 2002 when she was in the studio working with Rodney Darkchild Jerkins, who had remixed Overprotected, a song from Britney's self-titled 2001 album. She had on a blue thermal top and it had a little cigarette burn in it, Bell said. I thought this couldn't be her. This is her sister. She looked like she was dressing from the mall in Louisiana. Spears' recent breakup with Justin Timberlake inspired several songs she wrote at the time, Bell said. During their sessions, Timberlake's Cry Me a River, written about their breakup, was released. In its music video, he broke into the home of a Spears lookalike. I think she was really hurt by Cry Me a River, Bell said. Songwriter Angela Hunt, who co-wrote Britney's Do Something, recalled one recording session with Spears in 2002 in a New York City studio where Jive often put up artists, when Timberlake was also in the building rehearsing for an award show performance. We couldn't hear Justin exactly, but you could hear the music, hear the voice, she said. She was a little irritated by that. Then she came in and it was like nothing happened and we started recording, and she was a complete professional from beginning to end. Every time has been described as Spears' response to Cry Me a River and an apology. I may have made it rain. Please forgive me. My weakness caused you pain, and this song's my sorry. Bell recalled the first time Spears played Every Time for her on the piano during their 2002 sessions. She definitely can play the piano, no one really knows that. Bell told her she loved it, but Spears was hesitant about singing it for her A&R, the record label employee who would decide which songs would make the album. Another interesting point that when I referenced her and Justin Timberlake's relationship, if Justin was the one who cheated first, let's say, and she never even knew about it, even if she cheated herself and she never knew that Justin cheated, even if he did, what position does that put him into for releasing Cry Me a River and all of this aftermath if she still doesn't know? I would assume they might both know about each other, who knows. Anyway, just a quick aside there since they were mentioning that here. She said nobody really listens to her, Bell said. She just wanted someone to say, I believe in you beyond this pop machine. Bell developed a good relationship with Spears, and the pair worked on a number of songs together. After a while, she sort of trusted me, she said. One song they wrote during the 2002 session titled Look Who's Talking was about Timberlake, but contained references in its lyrics. Only he and Spears would understand. That song was totally about him, Bell said. It was all, let's not put it all out there. She was like, he'll know what we mean, but the rest of the world won't. In one line, Bell remembered Spears used the word justify for its double meaning. Timberlake's album was called Justified. I was true to you, justify my point of view, she sang. That's actually pretty interesting, isn't it? And kind of goes to what I was just saying before. If she said I was true to you, perhaps she did not cheat on him and there was another reason that we don't know about. Spears wanted to experiment with her sound. Chaotic, which became the theme song for her 2005 UPN reality show of the same name, was described by Bell as animated. I've just begun having my fun sounded like a Britney-fronted No Doubt song, and Falling was country influenced. She also wanted to try to record more R&B sounding songs. I think she wanted to go in an R&B direction like Justin was doing with Cry Me a River, Bell said. Spears' Me Against the Music, which became the lead single for her 2003 album In the Zone, bore more than a passing similarity to Justified's lead single Like I Love You, with its funked out acoustic guitars and tight drum tracks. Hunt called many of the songs that came out of these sessions empowering in regards to do something. Hunt recalled Spears thinking, I don't have to be unclothed to say what I'm thinking. I can just say it with these words, leave me alone, I just want to do me. I think that's what she meant by that. I can just say what I feel, I don't have to be anything extra. On Takeoff, Spears sang about tolerance, love, and peace. Bell called it her version of Michael Jackson's Black or White. It was about being tolerant about gay people. It was gay people discrimination, basically loving yourself and being connected, Bell said. I think it was ahead of Lady Gaga. I think people would have looked at her and thought she had something to say. It was ahead of its time. She talked about war and how war is wrong. In 2013, Bell tweeted some lyrics from the song, They Say Get Ready for the Revolution. I think we ought to find some sort of solution. But Jive wasn't impressed. I think maybe they thought it was not close enough to her brand, Bell said. She called In the Zone the filtered down version of Original Doll, or the more pop version. She wanted to make a record that was more vibey and more personal and honest, Bell said. Ultimately, Spears still hoped her songs would have their day. I think she knew I can come back to these songs later, Bell said. When Spears' In the Zone was released in 2003 of November, none of Bell's or Hunt's songs made the cut, although Every Time did. Even without these revelatory songs, the album was adventurous and sexy and marked a continued evolution of her sound and image through songs like Grammy-winning Toxic, Me Against the Music featuring Madonna, and Touch of My Hand, a song about masturbation. I think the record label was like, no, you've got to stay the course you're on, which was a strong pop star a little longer, Bell said. It's a lot of pressure to keep that spot. While most of Spears' original teen pop contemporaries had fallen off the charts, In the Zone debuted at #1, her fourth consecutive album to do so, which was at the time a record among female artists. But by the beginning of 2004, Spears was becoming more of a tabloid fixture. In January, she got married for 55 hours to childhood friend Jason Alexander in Las Vegas, leading Us Weekly to declare Britney out of control on its cover. While people asked, is she over the edge? Still in March, she set out on her most ambitious tour yet, the 93-city Onyx Hotel tour, to support In the Zone. It was also her most provocative. During one song, she writhed around in a clear bathtub wearing a nude-covered, diamond-encrusted bodysuit, while for another, she and a male dancer, each wearing only underwear, danced on a bed and kissed. It was a grueling schedule, with frequent back-to-back performances in cities hundreds of miles apart with perhaps a day or two in between. I was on the road for a while, and whoever scheduled my tour must have been out of their mind, she said in an episode of Chaotic. I was doing way too much stuff. I was over it. Spears didn't want to be on tour. She often skipped soundcheck, and she didn't seem to be giving her all during performances. Only one song in the 16-song set doesn't appear to have been lip-synced. But she was happier after meeting Federline, a backup dancer who'd worked with Destiny's Child, Pink, and Justin Timberlake. He was in Timberlake's Like I Love You music video. During a break at home in Los Angeles, Spears met Federline on a night out and, soon smitten, invited him to Europe for the tour's second leg. When Kevin came into the picture with all of us, you could see the sparkle in her eye, her security guard, Mo, said on Chaotic. You could see how she was more chipper. She wasn't as down as much. They saw that I wasn't a bitch anymore, and they're like, she's happy, let's keep him around, Spears said on the show. It was also during this time that Spears brought Mona Lisa to sound check before one of her shows, said Stephanie Alexander, a backup singer on the tour. She sang it a cappella and had her band work out an arrangement. She said she wanted to record it and release it as a single. It's not unusual for a seasoned artist to come and try new songs for an album, Alexander said. For Britney, it was unusual because she was a pop act. They tweaked and perfected the song over several sound checks. Spears said she wanted Gregorian chanting, which Alexander found interesting because Cry Me a River also featured Gregorian chanting. She also noted the similarities between the bridges of the two songs. I definitely think she was responding to Cry Me a River, she said. Although Spears never spoke with her backup singers or band about the meaning of the song, Alexander said she viewed it as a song about an amazing gem of a woman who is being taken for granted and ultimately self-destructs. It wasn't lost on us, the lyrics of the song, she said. The lyrics painted this character tragically. Mona Lisa was recorded in Sweden during a tour stop with members of Spears' road band and Bloodshy and Avant, the team who produced Toxic. It definitely has the raw thing going on it, Spears would tell KIISFM during the December 2004 interview, according to MTV. My band, we didn't use Pro Tools or anything with it. It was all live. There was a lot of stuff you can do to make it better. It's going to get better. It will get better. This is a really, really rough mix. Alexander said she vaguely remembered another song Spears had on tour but wasn't sure. I still can't say for certain if that is a mirage in my mind or if there actually were something else, she said. Regardless, there was to be no more new music recorded while on the road. The tour was cut short in June. The cancellation was attributed to an injury Spears sustained to her left knee during a music video shoot for the In the Zone track Outrageous, but not everyone on tour believed that. There was a lot of speculation about the reason the tour was canceled so abruptly, Alexander said. Most people attributed it to a relationship with Kevin, but it was the second injury since the tour began. She injured her left knee in March during a performance in Moline, Illinois, which forced her to cancel 2 shows, and she had previously undergone minor orthopedic surgery on her left knee in 1999, according to a complaint filed in February 2005 in a New York Supreme Court. Footage captured her fall mid-spin, and she was later seen on crutches. During the flight to New York City for the video shoot, Spears and Federline got engaged. They were married in October. In a blog post on her website that month titled Letter of Truth, Spears said she was taking time off to enjoy life. I've actually learned to say no, she wrote. With this newly found freedom, it's like people don't know how to act around me. Should we talk to her like we did when she was 16, or like the icon everyone says she is? My prerogative right now is to just chill and let all of the other overexposed blondes on the cover of US Weekly be your entertainment. Good luck, girls. She also chalked up her knee injury to divine intervention. I know that my knee gave out on me this past summer so that I would have no choice but to stop, she wrote. My body was shutting down and needed rest. It's funny how the man upstairs works. Her words were interpreted as a temporary retirement, but she clarified what she meant in a later blog post. What I meant was I am taking a break from being told what to do, she wrote. The things I've been doing for work lately have been so much fun because it's not like work to me anymore. For her first Greatest Hits album released November 2004, she recorded a cover of Bobby Brown's My Prerogative. The lyrics echoed her blog, I don't need permission, make my own decisions, that's my prerogative. If she was going to make music, she wanted it to be on her terms. When she brought Mona Lisa to KIISFM 8 weeks later, all signs point to her going rogue and doing it without the knowledge of her label. Typical new single rollouts are much more calculated than calling a radio station that day of, and no one involved in the writing or recording of the song had been paid yet, backup singer Alexander said. Spears used Mona Lisa as a pseudonym when she co-directed her first music video for Do Something. The empowerment song co-written by Hunt was released on her November 2004 Greatest Hits album. I kind of think she's like my alter ego whenever I feel like being mean or possibly like busting people around to get stuff right, she told TRL. It's kind of easier to be called Mona Lisa instead of Britney. The words Mona Lisa also appear for a split second in the video, written across a door that opens to reveal Spears and her bandmates. The only other song Spears recorded during this time was Someday I Will Understand, written in 2005, 2 weeks before she found out she was pregnant with her first child with Federline. Spears called it a prophecy on Chaotic. It seemed very obvious what the song was about, motherhood, but there was no physical sign that Britney was pregnant during those sessions. Sean McGee, who engineered, programmed, and mixed the song, wrote in an email, "Certainly we didn't ask her any questions. I would not have wanted to pry into her personal life, but when the news came out a few weeks later, it wasn't too much of a surprise." Like every time, the ethereal ballad had been written by Spears at a piano and produced by Guy Sigworth, who had worked with Bjork and Madonna and was one half of the short-lived duo Frou Frou. Engineer McGee said he was impressed with Spears' songwriting. "I think it's actually very difficult lyrically to write something like Someday without being mawkish," he said. "A lot of pop singers would really struggle to write about it in a sensitive and personal way, but Britney had written something really beautiful, great melody, great lyrics, but still totally pop and totally her. Much harder than it sounds." McGee said he wasn't told whether the song was to be a one-off single or part of a record. "If there was a larger context to it at the time, I wasn't aware of it," he said. Although he remembered Mona Lisa was mentioned by one of her label executives as a departure for Britney from what she'd done before. Someday and re-recorded and reworked Mona Lisa both ended up on the 2005 EP that came with the DVD release of Chaotic. On the new Mona Lisa, the line "'cause she's gone" became "she's been cloned." And the second verse was rewritten to be even more prophetic. "Now see everyone's watching. As she starts to fall, they want her to break down and be a legend of a fall," Spears sang. Lost albums, or perpetually delayed ones, are predisposed to impossibly high expectations. The mythology behind them can, over time, outweigh what the music would have been. Brian Wilson believed the Beach Boys' Smile would change popular music forever, and producer Scott Storch said Dr. Dre's still unreleased Detox would be the most advanced rap album musically and lyrically. Spears was never as boastful of her music, but many fans believe Original Doll would have been a masterpiece. It would have probably be a universally acclaimed album by her and gain her respect. It would probably win her a Grammy or two as well. Who knows? One user posted on a message board in 2012. Hunt, the Do Something songwriter, marveled at the level of fans' fascination with Spears' unreleased music, something she said she doesn't see for other artists. Fans frequently bombard her over social media, asking her to leak Britney's songs, including music she didn't even work on, like Rebellion, a song said to have been recorded for her 2007 album Blackout. She compared Spears' unreleased songs from these years to a final letter written by someone before they died. Perhaps listeners hope to find clues in the lyrics to what Spears was thinking before her breakdown. Ultimately, the Chaotic EP comes the closest to showing what Original Doll would have been, as it is the only collection of original music released between Spears' Mona Lisa interview in 2004 and Blackout in 2007. Spears told KIIS-FM she was halfway finished with the album, but it's unclear whether she meant she had recorded half of an LP or just had half of an album's worth of ideas written down somewhere. If there are songs she had recorded during that time that weren't eventually released or leaked, we might never know. The producers who worked with her during this time, Bloodshy and Avant and Guy Sigsworth, declined to comment for this story. And Belle, who uploaded some unreleased songs to her Tumblr in 2012, said she got a call from someone at the label who asked her to stop. If they can make money off of it later, they don't want anyone giving it out for free, she said. Spears was not made available for an interview, and her longtime manager, Larry Rudolph, declined to answer questions. Not supporting it, commenting on it, or providing any info for an expletive story with zero factual basis, he said in an email. During the time she worked, it's a weird kind of denial that this ever existed. It's just really bizarre. During the time she worked on Original Doll, Spears wrote and sang about freedom, something she has even less of today. Following her second hospitalization in a psychiatric ward in 2008, she was put under a still ongoing conservatorship, giving her father control over much of her life and finances. And of course, Andrew Wallet. Her latest LP, Britney Jean, released in November. Man, I can't believe that guy's named Andrew Wallet. Her latest LP, Britney Jean, released in November, was marketed as her most personal album yet. It included songs alluding to her faith and her children, but absent were her tracks about independence like the ones she had identified with so much a decade earlier. The Britney Jean song Passenger actually advocates the opposite. Although the lyrics can be read as a spiritual metaphor or about love, hearing "I'll let you lead the way now, 'cause I want you to take the wheel. I've never been a passenger" feels ironic coming from a 32-year-old woman who had been a passenger to her own life, at least legally, for 6 years and counting. In Japan in 2003, Spears was asked what her next record would be like. In the lead up to In the Zone, it was a town hall style interview. She was polite but seemed bored. There only out of duty, as she answered questions she had answered countless times before. It might be a little too early to talk about the next album, but if you had a choice of producers or artists that you'd like to collaborate with, who would you like to name? One fan asked. I think because I did collaborate on this record with so many people, I would probably on the next one make it kind of my own thing and just probably work with one producer, Spears said. I really know how the process works, and I know I can do it on my own. So she said that in 2003. Interesting. So, yeah, the other thing with this Mona Lisa song and being cloned, the Mona Lisa obviously being one of the most fabricated pieces of art, and the cloning, back in 2004, it was these conspiracy theories about celebrities being cloned, that was not a thing. If it was on the fringes of, in the real corners of the internet. It wasn't, all over social media where pretty much everybody had heard of it. It wasn't as prominent. So that is kind of bizarre. It's really, really bizarre. And then the nature of just going into a radio station and doing that whole thing, and then the denial over all of that after the fact. And then what's made it even more sad, if you listen to that original raw version, I mean, she's mostly singing in her real voice, and that's really the tragedy that a lot of people see in this unreleased album and the entire Britney Spears conspiracy. Aside from the clone stuff, of course, and the MKUltra stuff, if we take that out of the picture for a moment, what's the real conspiracy here? That music executives, music producers took advantage of a talented singer, morphed her into this baby voice singer in order to exploit her commercially, to make the most money possible, instead of allowing her to be a technical singer in her real voice. And would she be even more popular, more famous, with a bunch of Grammys today if she had developed her authentic self, so to speak? And even more sad, there were even signs, if you look at the song Lucky is a song that was released in 2000 from her second album, Oops, I Did It Again, and it is quite, it's really bizarre. If you listen to it, there's a music video, it's really sad, and she's talking about being sad and lonely and all of these things. There's hidden signs, people who have followed her career in a few different songs, and especially Mona Lisa, of course. It's really, really bizarre. You see it everywhere. The Overprotected song, Lucky. I mean, these are songs that aren't talked about as much as all her other songs. There's a lot there. And then, of course, you do see a lot of these bizarre moments in interviews. People point to MKUltra signs there. But it's really sad, because if she had successfully been able to execute this original Doll album under her own power, without this outside manipulation and control by studio execs, possibly family members, who all wanted to cash in on her, would her life have been different? Would there have been no breakdown? Would there have been no psychiatric wards? And would there be no conservatorship? I mean, these are questions that have to be asked, and these are really the crux of the conspiracy. So I'm going to close this podcast out with a really interesting post from a user since deleted on the subreddit Popheads. And it is quite interesting because it keeps in mind the time frame of Britney's rise to stardom and celebrity culture in general. Pop history lesson: we wanted Britney Spears to fail. A look back. It's a rehash of the way Britney Spears was subjected to so much hatred by the media and the public. The general reaction to her now is very, very different. Again, this was posted approximately 4 years ago. Please, if you have any points you'd like to add, go right ahead. As you can tell, I don't believe in too long didn't read, so if you want to write your own essay, be my guest. Okay. The hatred for Britney's mere existence has always been horrific because she was young, attractive, sexual, and commanded a stage. The Baby One More Time video was considered the height of sleazy and slutty, if you can believe that. People were so offended by it and by the Rolling Stone shoot she did soon after. Most people don't know she orchestrated both. There was a creepy obsession with her breasts and virginity because she appeared to have implants and told media she was a virgin. It's like people felt they'd be able to ruin her if they could just prove she had the surgery or had the sex. It was the weirdest cultural fixation. She had interviewers twice her age asking her about it. And there's an archived article here about her being asked to comment on the status of her sex life at 20 years old in the middle of a live press conference. This was a press conference before a Pop Awards ceremony in Cannes, France. A lone journalist bravely posed the question everyone had been dying to ask: is it true you were still a virgin? The packed room fell silent. Miss Spears, who had been dating boy band singer Justin Timberlake for more than 2 years, thought for a moment. I wish I'd never said anything about being a virgin now. When pressed further, she added, that's private. From 98 to around 2001, she was largely seen as disposable. Over in a few years, kinda how people viewed Rihanna at first, except no one hated on Rihanna irrationally. To be fair, Brit's lip-syncing didn't help. As Britney's sales went through the roof, the hate turned into she's the end of music, the wrong generation, etc. In 2003, Avril Lavigne was marketed as the anti-Britney. The term was used in almost every article and interview at the time. Britney started right when internet culture was brand new. I remember looking around the early 2000s internet as a kid for Britney Spears and finding a game where you shove objects in her mouth, then kill or beat her up. It was so disturbing, and there were tons of hate sites like that. This was before you just complained on Twitter. I actually can't believe this, but I managed to find one of the worst, most slut-shamey sites from years ago right here. And there's a link here to anomalies-unlimited.com/Britney. This site is no longer up, but if you go to the archive of it on Wayback Machine, it just mostly has a lot of not nice stuff to say about her, mostly revolving around degrading comments around sexual routines and all that of her performances. Now, this is a perfect sum up of how non-fans saw her back then. The worst part is this person has a point about sexualization and exploitation of women and girls, but they blame Britney instead of the corrupt male-dominated music industry. The same thing happened to Kesha. In 2003, a U.S. politician's wife said she would shoot Britney if she could in a speech about preventing domestic violence. That's kind of messed up. I don't remember that. This was Daily Mail. Kendall Ehrlich was trying to make a politically correct point about women getting well-educated so they did not have to rely on anyone else. She told the Conference on Domestic Violence, it is incredibly important to get that message to young women. You know, really, if I had an opportunity to shoot Britney Spears, I think I would. Later, a spokeswoman for the wife of U.S. Governor Robert Ehrlich said she was a working mother with a young son and made an inadvertent comment to express her concerns about the influence of pop culture on children. Spears' record label said Mrs. Ehrlich had shot herself in the foot by promoting violence. Yeah, that's really messed up. Britney addressed it here.
Because what was the thing? Was it the governor of Maryland's wife? She was at a domestic violence prevention conference. I think
I've heard this. What did she say?
That she wanted to kill you. But, no, I think I'm right meaning to say it. But you must have thought that was quite funny.
Yeah. It's funny. You can't take it. I feel sorry for her. No, seriously. Yeah. She probably needs to get...
She's... Oh. Someone who's the governor of Maryland doesn't sound like a stud, does he?
which was on Graham Norton, where she kind of played it off jokingly. And that's another thing too that's kind of interesting. Britney Spears I'll talk about this as I'm closing the podcast too, but she seems really nice for a celebrity. All these other celebrities are apparently quite nasty people, and she's so nice, and she had all of this corruption and toxicity around her, and yet she kind of remained nice, and she still seems nice, again, if she's not a clone, of course. Britney was the prime example of the wrong girl, the one everyone held up as a bad example of the worst sort of role model. You always heard people trying to be cool, saying stuff like, I can't stand these 12-year-olds who dress like Britney Spears, so fake and slutty. Now they probably say Miley Cyrus. Google that phrase leads to ridiculous articles like this. Do they all have to dress like Britney? This was in The Guardian. Teachers slammed the tweenies' obsession with looking and acting older than their years. Now Fashion Magazine editor and mother Louise Chun agrees that it's all gone too far. Article from August 2003. When this picture went viral, every media outlet called her fat. That's kind of messed up. Really bizarre too, because this would constitute probably anorexic in 2020 and beyond times. Simon Cowell went to see her 2004 tour and said she should have hit the gym more before going on stage, then randomly said Christina is more talented. Those are interesting comments from Simon Cowell. Okay. Justin expletive on her after their breakup has been well publicized recently, but it was also teamed with Christina framing a lot of her stripped promo around constantly dissing her too, not to mention Justin Timberlake and Christina toured together that year, and Christina only got worse after losing all attention to Britney with the Madonna kiss. Speaking of, the public despised Britney's VMA performances at first. They were seen as what was wrong with the VMAs. The 2001 where she ripped off her costume, the host said, from Mickey Mouse Club to the strip club. So the media framed it like she spent the whole performance slowly getting naked in front of children. Hilariously extra quote from above link, Britney Spears provided some medieval thrills by hanging, drawing, and then quartering the Rolling Stones. I can't get no satisfaction in a transparent body stocking. For a few moments, it was as if child pornography had gone overground. The slave performance reaction was almost identical to how people saw the Miley Thick performance, depraved and sleazy. It was very weird watching public opinion do a complete 180 on both performances. I never imagined they'd be seen as iconic or the pinnacle of VMA performances one day. And that's an interesting point, of course. People actively rooted for her marriage to K-Fed to end, to the point where Matt Lauer told her about the hatred in that infamous 2006 interview. She had expletive up a few times in public with her baby when that interview happened. Most outlets public went off at her for not apologizing profusely and for not admitting she was a terrible mother. Lauer asks her, is Britney a bad mom? Wow, that's really messed up. There's also a photoshopped image that was popular at the time of her pregnant and smoking. I had to tell so many people it was fake when she got pregnant again. That Pink is the new blog guy who was at the peak of popularity then snapped, I love the internet because I managed to find his post. She looked really bad in this horrible satin potato sack. I'm not sure how many babies she's pregnant with, but it looks like at least 8. I think it's safe to say that her career is going to quit on her. Britney looked a tiny bit better as she left the Late Show, mainly because her coat covered up her chubby back. She looks like a thicker Kimberly Stewart with parents like Spetterline. I'm shocked Sean Preston isn't a raging alcoholic already. And I do not know who this I guess this is some kind of Australian guy who was a popular blogger at the time. Delightful. Immediately after her 2007 VMAs performance, host Sarah Silverman called Britney's children's mistakes and talked explicitly about Britney's genitals. And this was actually right after her 2007 VMA performance, like right after she was on stage, that's kind of messed up.
25 years old, and she's already accomplished everything she's going to accomplish in her life. It's mind blowing, and she's so grown up. She's a mother. You know, it's crazy. It's weird to think that just a few years ago on this very show, she was this like sweet, innocent little girl in slutty clothes riding around with a python. Have you seen Britney's kids? Oh my God, they are the most adorable mistakes you will ever see. They are so cute. They're as cute as the hairless vagina they came out of. I'm serious, they're this cute, you guys.
Classy lady, Sarah Silverman, of course. And what's kind of ironic is that Britney Spears is still relevant, whereas I don't know if anybody talks about Sarah Silverman anymore, and you can compare their accomplishments as well. She said Britney hadn't achieved everything she'll ever achieve. If that isn't actively wanting someone to fail, I don't know what is. There was also Perez Hilton, who said both her children looked disabled. Fans were infuriated when he got to open her circus tour a year later. In 2007, the Associated Press publicized that they were preparing Britney's obituary. What? AP readies Britney's obituary. We are not wishing it, but if Britney passed away, it's easily one of the biggest stories in a long time. AP Entertainment editor Jesse Washington tells Us Magazine. What the heck? That's pretty messed up. And what's even crazier is how she still, if they had done this to other people, I mean, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. Also in 2007, Craig Ferguson made a specific promise to no longer make fun of her on his show because he felt it was all getting out of control. Too Long Didn't Read. People have always wanted Britney to fail in all aspects of her life. Many still do. The hate for her has been so synonymous with her name as her success. I guess it's a good sign that some people who saw my original post didn't know about it. That means things are changing. Not fast enough, though. Her X Factor promo run made it to Reddit a couple years ago, and the comments were horrific. And of course, there was the whole leave Britney alone thing. But anyway, it was kind of crazy because in hindsight, a lot of this got swept under the rug on how the Idiot Box portrayed Britney Spears, especially in troubling times, and then just making fun of her. And also how she kind of, if she's not a clone, and if this MKUltra stuff, again, is true or not true, she kind of had the last laugh, and hopefully she overcomes the conservatorship soon. But she kind of explained this as well in interviews. Everybody was kind of expecting her to fail and to just go back home. But she stayed in LA, and she made her successful comeback, and to obviously one of the most successful music stars of all time, despite everybody wanting her to fail. And she did it with her personality intact, in terms of you would think she would become the most bitter, hateful person after all of this that has happened to her, but apparently she did not. Now, obviously, some people say that she was more lethargic in certain performances. It seemed like she may have been drugged and on drugs. It's tough. It's tough. I mean, who knows if she was using to cope, or if they were prescribed, and if she's under the conservatorship. That's the other aspect of the conspiracy. What are these people prescribing her? And why? Is it to keep her in a kind of stupor, so she doesn't realize she's being exploited? And again, this doesn't necessarily have to involve the CIA or record producers. I mean, her own family, unfortunately, could be doing that to her in order to pocket and control her money, and get guys like Andrew Wallet to help with that. So that is the gist of the Britney Spears conspiracy and the Free Britney movement. It is very, very messed up, as have been a lot of her life has been as well. And I guess we will never know what would have happened if she hadn't been made and forced to perform with that baby voice the whole time. But she's had moments where she's broke out of that. If you look up her performance on Something to Talk About, she sings that quite well. Hope you guys enjoyed another edition of the MindShock podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, you can donate to our PayPal, help support the channel so we can make more mind-shocking podcasts in a variety of topics, from true crime to the paranormal to various conspiracies, all in comprehensive, logical, objective fashion. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notification, make sure you allow your device to have those notifications come through. You could also just go to youtube.com/mindshock to manually peruse our ever-expanding catalog and see when the latest podcasts are revealed, as well as live streams. Share this podcast if you liked it across social media platforms, of which you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and Patreon. Patrons do get a priority for case topic, logical analysis, co-podcaster requests. You could also be a guest on the podcast depending on your tier. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comment section. And you can let us know as well if you think this was an abuse of MindShock logical analyses. This is Bruce McGuire signing off. Catch you guys next time.